Ready, ready, ready. Ready, ready, ready.
Okay, we're rolling.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to the Lost Lowdown, podcast 160, with your hosts, Claude and Justin.
What's up, guys?
We are back, continuing our season 4 commentary series with episode 405. Dun 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 dun. The Constant.
The Constant.
The Constant.
The Constant.
The Constant.
The Constant.
Lay Constant.
It's not plural.
Oh. Le Constant?
Le.
Oh,
Constant, huh?
Oh, French. You slay me. Well, we have recorded a little green room segment, which is basically where Justin and I are talking before we do the podcast that ends up being interesting enough to be on the podcast, or at least available to be listened to. So we're gonna splice that in here. So after this, you'll hear a bit of that green room where we talk about a lot of things, including the Constant, and then we'll jump back in and back to do the commentary series for the Constant. So yeah, this should be fun. Did I lose you?
No, we're good.
Oh, sorry. All right.
So we back?
Oh, sorry.
Just wondering if we're gonna come back.
Did we leave yet? I didn't think we left yet.
I thought you just left. That wasn't you leaving?
That wasn't me leaving.
Oh, fuck.
And here's the green room.
Alright, I'll turn it on. Okay.
Green room.
It's on. But yeah, there's a lot of shows out there. I don't think any of them really have this kind of staying power, at least not for me.
No. Even my favorite shows.
Yeah.
I still don't have that feeling for.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it was just kind of lucky because I've liked a lot of other shows and I might have wanted to do a podcast at some point, but yeah, I don't think it would have turned into the same kind of thing.
Mm-mm.
We just finished watching this HBO series called The Night Of. Have you?
Oh yeah, how was
heard
that?
about that one? No, it was good. It's what I would call a good show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I think early on.
It's over.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very definitive ending, and it's just like you can just kind of move on once it's over,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a procedural mixed with a prison drama, mixed with a legal show,
Yeah, and I'm like, I almost started that show, and I was just like, none of those things sound great to me. Like, if I watched it, I probably would like it, but just starting it, it's just kind of like, ugh, I don't really care.
Yeah, it kind of mixes a bunch of stuff that I don't particularly like, but there are some really interesting elements of the show. I sort of feel like if you took the show and you tweaked the focus and maybe you changed some of the story directions,
Mm-hmm.
I think it could have been like really awesome because there are certain moments where it's like, oh wow, that was cool. That was like, a really interesting take on this thing that, is kind of standard TV stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Especially early on. There's this whole thing that happens early on where it's like, oh, that's, an interesting perspective on this kind of thing. It's this, murder thing. He gets arrested, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as it goes on, it becomes more standard. And I was drawn in and I cared. But yeah, at the end of the day, I didn't feel like I had a lot, to take away from it. And it's definitely not something I would want to go back to or really think about it. I've kind of felt the same way about Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just like, I'll watch a season 2, but
Yeah, the fervor I had for the show died very quick, Lee, and when I first saw it, first episode, and that title sequence, and I
Fucking title sequence.
title sequence, and I was really really into it. I think it was really the ending. Once the ending happened, and I was just like, okay, well, it's just an ending. And so
Yeah,
like I'm not that excited to see anymore. Like I feel like I know what this world is, and
yeah,
there's no real mysteries left, and um, they set up that the kid is connected to this world still or something, but there was
right.
but that's not a specific threat. It's no Bob inside of Cooper. It's no like.
Absolutely, totally
Oh
different.
wow! Like if they were like the kid is the monster now or something, then I'd be like,
Yeah,
oh, that's crazy.
that
But
would be, yeah,
yeah.
that would be a more interesting ending.
So and then it's just gonna be like, well, and I'll check in for next season. I'll check into it. But if there's no 11, there's no point in watching. I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I think she'll be back. I think
Yeah.
they pretty much set it up, and I feel like they know that she was a huge part of why that show was good.
Mm-hmm.
When it was good, and so yeah, I think they realized that they were gonna come back. Like they gotta.
Yeah, she's trapped in the other world and they gotta
Yeah,
find her or something
yeah,
like that. Like, it's not gonna be too insane. But that's the thing with Lost, like I'm really I do think there's something, and this is gonna be on the podcast, but I do think there's something in terms of the odds that both of us would be stricken with the sickness that is this show in the
yeah,
same way. Like, it is. I think that's very interesting too. Not only that it can do that thing, but it did that thing to both of us.
right,
I think that's very interesting, and I don't really see that happening again. Like,
yeah,
even if the show is great, like both of us really like it, and both of us can't really get over it, and it is the show that keeps on giving. It's so strange to just keep talking about this show and still discovering things after 600 plus hours, still discovering things
yeah,
and making connections and going, wait, is this thing that thing?
yeah,
Oh man, that
yeah,
makes so much sense. And to have that not be something that's obvious and not be something that, oh yeah, everybody figured this out years ago. Like it's like these subtleties that's pretty amazing that are even there for a show that was written as a regular TV show. You know what I mean?
right,
Like it's not like even like Game of Thrones where it has
yeah,
this novel form that has more details it can draw from, and like this whole longer process of writing where it's like no, they had a regular season to write all this stuff,
yeah,
and still there's all these depths to things when you rewatch it, and all these like connections, and honestly I think that's the thing, is the perspective, the idea that they're all experiencing the island in a certain way, and so are we, and therefore when you rewatch the show you can choose how you experience things, and what how that makes you think about the show, and it becomes a choose your own adventure almost or something,
yeah,
and it gets this kind of that fractal Holon thing happens, and then there's more there than what's just there, because you're interacting with it now,
yeah.
and yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to still be talking about this show after all this time, and it's crazy to write a book about it. Who writes a book about a TV show?
Yeah,
I mean, I know that happens, but like a critical literary film TV criticism book,
mhm,
it's
yeah, yeah,
it's got to be interesting to do that, and and really like take it seriously, and with a little fun, but like
yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, the ideas are there. When we saw that fucking psychology fucking textbook talking about these things, and like, God, I'll never forget that moment where I'm reading about these like psychology terms and metaphors, and I'm like, this is describing Locke.
Yeah.
This is
right.
literally describing Locke. This is describing Jack. This doesn't make any sense to me. That this is describing characters on a sci-fi action mystery show.
Right.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That it can be that deep with the psychology, and it all makes sense. And it's insane.
Yeah, that's the stuff it has that I think Game of Thrones doesn't have, because I think Game of Thrones, the world is more complicated. Like, there's no question. Like, it's deep. The details are extensive. Like, rewatching it, I realized connections that I hadn't noticed before. But it's not the same as the stuff in Lost, where it's in that case, it's really just details about the history of the world, if that makes any sense. It's fact based.
Yeah.
Like, I'm discovering facts that I was unaware of. But Lost doesn't work that way at all. Facts about Lost are like really hard to come by at all. Because anytime you want to assert something as a fact about Lost, you instantly run into the problem of, interpretation, and like, how do you know when something's true, and you're running into, like, the central theme of the show right away. Just trying to talk about, like, what's true.
Yep.
We were talking about, on the last podcast, that the age-old question, does the sickness exist? I looked, when I was looking on the old blog page, like, I noticed, like, at a certain point, I 100% believed that it didn't exist.
Yeah.
At a certain point, I changed my mind, and I believed 100% that it did, and now I don't even know. Now I'm just kind of ambivalent about the whole thing. It's like, maybe not. I don't know. And that's just not normal. Like, I mean, it should just be a yes or no thing. I mean, the normal way stuff like that works is, like, you think it exists and you reveal that it doesn't, and then maybe there's a further twist where it does, but you can't just leave it as
leave it as an unknown thing. You can't. That's not what you should do. Like, how does the audience know what's happening? How do they know what's true? What to believe? What the stakes are? Like, anything. Like, if you don't ever come to a conclusion about certain things.
Yeah. It's just like, I'm thinking about Game of Thrones or whatever. If it's like, did the smoke baby exist? It's like, well, yeah, the smoke baby fucking existed. It killed a guy. Like, obviously it existed.
Yeah.
You don't have to question it,
and
so it's just like, even when it's weird stuff on Game of Thrones, and even when it's like, it's not like you can answer every question about, like, how does it work, or you don't necessarily know everything, but you're not just plunged into this, world of uncertainty so quickly, just thinking about, basic questions that the show's addressing.
Yeah.
What is the island, for example? On a normal show, you would be able to answer that question in a straightforward way by the end. Whereas, like, if we tried to answer we could probably spend a whole podcast talking about that.
Yeah.
And the different facets of what the island is, because it's not really clear, like, what it is. And there's what people say about it, and then there's what we see on it, and you got to just, like, put that together somehow, and there's no definitive answer about it.
Yeah, no.
Game of Thrones has history books and stuff, and, like...
Yeah, that's completely different.
There's just so much more certainty of, like, this happened, this war happened, this, this is the history. There were the first men and the Andals and the, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you have a really concrete thing to go back to. And in Lost, it's like, Well, there was Mother, and before that,
Yeah. There was what Mother said happened, and that's
Yep.
really all you got.
And who knows? Who knows if it's true or not? Like, we'll never know. There's no way to know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not allowed to know. We don't even know everything there is to know, even close to everything there is to know about Jacob and the Man in Black, you know? And I mean,
Nope.
we see their birth, you know, we see them through the years, and that's not enough. So with Mother, it's like it's even worse. It's like we don't even know where she came from. She said it was the same, and I guess that's plausible, but we really don't know,
Yeah.
you know? So it's just like, okay, and that's it. That's the most we can say. You know, there was a woman there at some point, and she said this,
This is what she said, guys.
and that's it. That's all you got. And the kids, they don't know any more than what she told them.
Mm-mm.
Anything they come to think later is just based on what they see after that and what she told them, and that's it.
There's just no show like that.
No,
There's no show like that.
that's just not normal.
It's not normal. For yeah, it's like Law and Order. Like, well, I think this guy died. I did see a body, but you know, my partner didn't see the body, so they're not convinced. And can we take this to trial? I mean, we don't have any evidence. You can't have a show like that. Yeah, where like
everything falls apart so quickly. It's just
Mhm.
like, how can you progress in a storyline if you're not even sure, you know, like what's true
Yeah.
at all, you know? And it's like they managed to do it anyway because characters would just decide what they believed was true.
Yeah. And you know, the moments heighten and they have to move on. Like, you
Yeah.
know, Locke throws a knife in somebody's back or something, and
Yeah.
and you're not quite worried about the other thing you were thinking about. You
Yeah.
know, how they move the plot along with like escalating the conflict and stuff, and then you're left at the end of the day. I mean, you could have a sketch. I mean, it's a sketch because it'd be funny, but you could have a scene where it's like, you know, some of the characters in their tent at night just, you know, crying themselves to sleep of how annoying this place is and how like I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out one thing since I landed here.
Yeah.
Except where the oatmeal is. You know, like, oh man,
Yeah.
it's an incredible idea that was never explained to the audience that's the idea and again that's the extra level of the show is like you don't even know that's what you're watching. It's not telling you it's about that stuff. It's showing you it's about that, but it's not telling you it's about that. Well, it is sometimes the writers who tell you, but you don't know. You still don't know because it's a new thing. It's a completely new thing, and and I feel like they should get more credit for creating something new like that. A kind of a different genre, or I guess you know, subgenre of the mystery story or something. But yeah, you know, we made that analogy before about like Murder on the Orient Express or something.
Yeah.
What if you just never figured out who did it? It was just a mystery.
Yeah. It would be weird. It sort of violates the thing, but it's also like, you know, it's a cool idea because that is the draw of the mystery is the unknown.
And that would be a great story if like all these people were on a train where somebody died. They were all suspects. It was never solved. And they got off the train and went through their lives with this lingering mystery.
Yeah.
You know, and how would that affect them? You know, with this murder in their mind.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. But
you want to start the podcast?
Sure. Let me make sure I got my shit running here.
Do.
Oh right, I'm probably gonna have to put this on like one monitor. Fucking copyrights, man. Jesus.
Copyrights, man.
Ugh.
Fucking copyrights,
I
man.
swear, it makes me want to pirate stuff.
Yeah.
Just because this is less of a pain. All right. I mean, the Blu-ray's nice, but man. All right. I think this is working. I hope it's working. Okay. Yeah, this seems good. Okay. Let me just open up thing here. Do you have any idea, like, how much space would be taken up by all the podcasts?
Well, that was part of the tallying when Steven or whoever started that list.
Yeah, I thought so.
We would. I know. I mean, I don't. We would have to go and keep, add to the tally with what's left, and
Okay.
which at some point it'd be cool to do, just to say we have this much data. But part of that I don't like because it's kind of arbitrary.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, what bitrate did you use?
Yeah.
It kind of doesn't say what
Unlike the
you
time.
kind of want it to say. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I was just wondering in terms of how much space it's going to take up on the disc.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, how much is a Blu-ray? Like 40. I don't have a Blu-ray burner, but 40. Is it 40 gigs?
I think so.
40 or 50? I think it's 50. 40 to 50 or whatever. Yeah, 50 is probably the limit. 20. I think it's 25 each side or something. Each
Yeah.
player.
Yeah.
But it's probably more than that, don't you think?
You think? Do you remember what it was in the neighborhood?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Well, we have that list, right?
I think I have like a few hundred gigs. Yeah, I have 500 gigs of free space. I don't want to use it all.
You mean on your computer?
Yeah, well, on the Discord it'll go. I have more than that on the whole computer, but it's easier if I put it on one disc.
I don't. 500 gigs? It can't be more than that.
I would hope not. It's just odd.
Drive that Google. And then I called it Lost Matrix, I think. LLD Matrix. Yep. Also on Podcast Matrix. And this was, as of that point, it was up to... Oh, yeah, so this is everything all through Season 6. All the commentary, Season 1, 2... Oh, so this is everything up until Season 3 I do.
Okay.
And this was 12.976.
Okay.
Has to be gigabytes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 12 gigs.
Okay.
So,
That's not bad.
Twice that would be, 25. So
Yeah. Which is still way less than 500, so.
it's way less.
Yeah. That's good.
Anyone who says it's not is lying.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna like repair some of the missing stuff and put it in order again, and then I'll download them all.
Okay. Man, it's cool. I'm looking at this. So we did 4 episodes of Season 2, then it was over. And then we did a Season 1 retrospective. So we basically talked about Season 1 after having seen all Season 1 and Season 2.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to do a commentary on Season 1, but we didn't really do that. That wasn't a thing.
Yeah, we didn't do any commentaries until much later.
And then I see, this makes sense. We're so logical. Then we did Season 2 up until the point that we hadn't.
Yep.
There.
That was the idea. Like, we should talk about the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Now that it's off.
And then we did Season 3 in its entirety.
Yeah.
And then we went back and did, maybe this was best of Season 1 favorite episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 4, 9, and 10. And then we did a Comic-Con podcast and the ABCs of Lost.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
The ABCs of Lost.
What's that?
Uh, yeah. I think was that a thing we did with our listeners, or did we just do it ourselves? Isn't it a thing where like you name a letter and then you have to
Is
like
that what that is?
you go in alphabetical order and then you have
Okay.
to say a
I'll
thing
buy
for
it.
the show? I think it's something like that.
I'll buy it.
Good. That's all I'm selling.
Yeah, the total hours here were 572. Yeah, we're way over that. Then we did then season 4, which is what we're doing now. What's IRP? The constant in real person?
Instant
Uh,
reaction podcast,
Instant
I think.
reaction. Instant reaction.
Yeah.
This is
I
our
forgot we did
instant.
that.
This is our instant reaction.
Wow,
Folks.
that's interesting. Oh man, I wish I
I
had
want
listened to that.
I want to hear that.
Yeah, what the
Oh, it's
fuck
only
did we
16
say?
minutes long.
Oh,
You know what we should do if we
what
have time?
what should we do?
We should record. We should do this podcast
Yeah.
on the constant, and then we should go back and do a commentary on this thing. It's only 16 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, we can
And since
try.
it's so short, this will be a good chance to figure out how to do a commentary on a podcast.
Yeah. It's gonna be a little bit tricky. The first thing that pops into my mind is make the video show like, the time of where you are in the podcast. It seems like the easiest thing.
Yeah, I can just show you.
Sync.
Oh wait, that doesn't work. Well, yeah, how's that gonna work? Oh, maybe I can hook it up with my TV, and on my TV I'll put the audio player. And you
Yeah.
can see the time, and then on the computer I'll just have it playing. I can do that. Yeah, that'd be fun. And then season 5, then we did season 6. Okay, then everything was normal after that. Instant reaction podcast.
Yeah.
It's so dramatic.
Yeah, I don't know why we did that. I guess we
Was it? You know why? I think you know why. My guess is that it was such a crazy episode. We called each other and was like, "We have to talk about this.
yeah.
We can't wait."
I guess you're right.
And
guess
then
that's
we
what
did-
happened.
That's what my guess is. And then because it's the constant. And then
Yeah.
we did a real podcast on it.
Yep.
Because we have to do that.
Yeah. 16 minutes is not breezy, it says. Like
What says
that.
Breezy?
It's on the blog. This is not the new podcast. This is just a breezy 15-minute podcast with our general thoughts about the episode.
Breezy.
It's breezy.
I love that it's Breezy. Which when was that?
February 2008. February 28, 2008.
It's funny. Breezy.
Breezy.
Oh yeah, here's Ben.
It's right above Ben. The rumors are true.
Ben wants you to click him. Yeah. Wow.
Oh, Ben.
A real podcast coming later. Wow. Cool. Well, I'll say this, Justin, as I just bit my tongue.
Oh, God.
Ow. If we never achieve any other goal in our lives,
Always a good start.
We have to slow down.
Yeah.
It's something.
It is definitely.
You can't deny it's something.
I would never try to.
And you'll never meet anyone else who's like, if you're like, yeah, I've been podcasting on this thing for over 10 years, and you never meet anyone who's going to be like, me too. Or like, I've been podcasting by 20 years.
True.
It's like, no. It's very specific.
Yeah.
And it's like popular enough that everyone has an opinion on it.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't see it, they have something to say about it.
Yeah. They, yeah. I mean, most people. I mean, pretty much. I mean, everyone who was doing Lost podcast just kind of moved on. You know, it reminds me of. Is it Trevor from ETSD? Is he the one who's like?
He's a brodel, and then he goes and fucking.
He's like it's 3:11 for me. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not a whore. Like whatever he says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wouldn't work for anybody else. And I think he asked them why. Didn't he say family or I don't know?
Yeah. Something like that. They're like my family.
And he's a brodo. I mean, he literally is in the song.
He is. Literally.
And like this is the guy. And I remember when we first watched ETSD, and it was so cool to see the guys they were talking about.
Yeah.
That's the actual. This is the guy from the song.
Yeah.
And so he's immortalized in their music, and he still leaves.
Yeah,
and it's just so funny. Yeah,
Yeah, I think he went to work for Limp Bizkit. That's what got in my head.
That's our collective urban legend.
Like I don't 100% know that was true. Yeah, but that's what I thought.
Heard. Yeah.
So yeah, but whatever. It was some other band. He stopped. Working with them, and yeah, it's just like wow, that's how I feel about the other podcasters. Not that I would never podcast about another show, but it just feels like they'll podcast about anything that's on that's like sort of interesting.
They try to find a cool show that they can podcast about, that they can like, you know, however many people can tolerate it or like it or talk about it. Even if I've never seen it, I can still be on this podcast. Like, to me, that's like the weirdest. That's like the weirdest thing.
It is. It's horrible.
Yeah. Why would I want to listen to you guys talk about something I haven't seen?
Mm-hmm.
I could say stuff, but like it would be arbitrary. It seems like you really can't, make that work.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
But what does make sense is
the next.
Do you miss that? You miss my transitions, my segues?
Yeah. You were doing that a lot early on.
Yeah, early on it was a lot.
The first episode 1, you did that like probably 10 times or something. It was hilarious.
That's my impression of a radio host.
Yeah. I would say some weird phrase, and then you would say, "Well, what's not that thing?" Is
Oh man, yeah, it was doing it in those days was, because like the commentary stuff is like feels a lot different now. The old podcasting ways, and those days of like all the time spent with like, all right, I gotta go rewatch the episode, I gotta take notes on every scene.
That was.
And I think that's the part that I think a lot of other podcasters didn't do.
No way they did that.
And really, I mean, if it's funny, and I feel like we need to remember this when we work on the book. But I think like that was, doing that is like doing this like an academic pursuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think like if we look at it, really, we started that when we started the show. Like we started looking at it like an academic exercise. I mean, a podcast first, but like the way we approached it was like, all right, like let's really discuss this and let's use all the tools of like, science and art to figure this thing out. I think that made it really special too,
Yeah.
All the notes, going through the
notes.
So many notes.
And we had to trade off, I remember, because it was quite a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
Like I know you were doing them for a while, and then I took over for a while, so you didn't have to do, because it was just like summarizing every scene of every episode was like pretty time consuming and pretty difficult. I wish that I had kept all my notes from, like I have some of those, but I didn't keep them in a consistent place, and so I don't have all of them anymore.
Yeah.
Which is too bad.
I don't have all of them. Some of them, I mean, I probably have all the drives that they're on somewhere, but so I have them, but finding them would be difficult. And then I think there's a lot that I have online from like Google Drive whenever I started doing that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good for that. But I also have like some of the super early ones before we were going scene by scene. I don't remember. I think maybe I figured this out, like where the first one was where we like talked about every scene. Because once we started doing that, we were just doing that, for the rest of the podcast, basically.
Yeah.
While the show was running. But before that, it was more like I would take notes, and I think we would both take notes, like particular things we wanted to focus on or talk about or questions we had or, So it would be like a couple of pages of like, whatever. What's the deal with the boat? Or,
Yeah.
What did Michael mean when he said blah, blah, blah? Like it was like that kind of stuff. And then that stuff got wrapped into the episode summaries because it would be like, well, we're going to talk about every scene, so all that stuff's going to come up.
Yeah, that was like the next big segment.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was I remember it being a little bit tricky because it was like, oh, well, this scene talks about this thing, but then there's a later scene where we get this other stuff, and so like, when are we gonna open this can of worms?
Yeah, exactly. There's I have a lot of memories of you saying, we'll get to this later.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Here's this thing.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, we'll have to unpack that, and it will be a lot. and it was like there was a period of time where it usually was something Ben said.
Yeah, that happened a lot, definitely.
Yeah, it was like, okay, well, we'll talk about this later, but in this scene, Ben says this thing, and then later, yeah.
Yeah, that was all over the place.
Yeah, so I think, that little summary right there shows you, like, you can't really have that with a lot of shows, like, just...
Yeah.
Who's going to be taking notes over what?
Yeah, I know. It seems ridiculous to do that normally. I wouldn't feel driven to do that normally.
Then Sansa told Bran that, like...
Oh, God.
Like, who's going to do that and then, and then go scene by scene?
Yeah.
Like, on Game of Thrones. For what? We watched it.
Right. Yeah. It's not really necessary to talk about it in that way. Because it isn't about like weird scenes that, you may never understand.
Yeah.
I love that they did that. Here's the scene that you'll still be talking about 10 years later. Enjoy.
You're welcome. We're done with it, but you guys can wrestle with that for eternity.
We're just going to move on and never speak of it again. But we made this, and you can just fucking sit with this. It's ridiculous. And I think the first run through, one big mistake that I made is I kept, even though the evidence was right there in my face that this wasn't true, I kept thinking that Lost was a normal show.
Yeah, I mean, that's and again, why wouldn't you? That's really I feel like that extra spice, the extra rub is like, well, and it's like it's not your fault. It's like you got it wrong, and because they knew you were gonna think that way, and they rode that secret like all the way to the end and then it's like again, it's such like a magic trick. They reveal it, and then it's like they have it's like a picture like, a magic show, and there's like a something covered in black cloth, and you're waiting the whole time to see what it is, and like it's something cool, right? Because why else would it be under a black cloth, and like smoke, and there's lights, and the magician's like, I'm about to take the cloth off and reveal what's under here. And it's like with Lost, he takes the cloth off to reveal just something else covered with cloth. Like it's just the same thing. And then he looks at you and he's like, well, why did you think there would be something else? Like,
Yeah.
and then he gets kind of mad at you.
Yeah, this is
Like,
about you now. Like,
yeah, now it's about you. It's about
you're
what
looking
you
at
do.
me expecting me to deliver something, but what does that say about you?
Yeah. I wanted to just have another thing in cloth under here.
Yeah.
I don't know why you thought that I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Who are you to say that it can't be that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know.
I feel like that's actually to me, I feel like that's a very good visual analogy to loss. Is like a magician. He's constantly like revealing something that is just itself.
Yeah.
You know, so you do like one round of that, and then he's like, okay, but hey, now we have a second object covered in black cloth. Okay, now I can open it. You want to see what's under here? Okay, you really want to see? All right. And then he reveals it, and again, it's like just the same looking thing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, guys, the first time it was nothing.
Yep.
The second time is nothing. Why are you surprised?
Yeah.
And then, because you're like, well, normal shows would have made it be about something now.
Right. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. I mean, you get trained on these things, and they know that too. I mean,
Yeah.
From Damon and Carlton to the whole writing team, I mean, they know how those things work, and so it's. I think there's an awareness there that they're gonna pull you in like that,
Mm-hmm.
and that in the end it's gonna have this weird like effect.
Yeah, for sure.
But that reminds me of something that Rite said.
Oh man,
Well,
Rite.
like one of the things about Rite that kind of drove me
Rite
crazy.
sounds like somebody's made-up friend.
Yeah.
Where were you at? Oh, I was at lunch with Rite. Like, that's you're lying.
There is no Rite. Yes, there is.
There's never a Rite.
There is a Rite. I'll show you.
Rite and Exeme, I feel like, go together. Anyone that ever tells you there's a Rite, they're lying.
God, that's a classic. Yeah, so Rite. One of the other things that kind of drove me crazy is he talked about. So there was a couple things he talked about. Like the first thing that I thought was just totally unfair is he talked about like some of the marketing for the show. Like I don't know if you remember. I think it was in season 2. Like they ran a promo where they were like, maybe it was season 3. I don't know. They ran a promo that was like, this week the answers to 3 questions will be revealed. You remember that one?
Yeah, remember that one.
And it's like, and he brought this up like it was, because what was actually in the episode was, pretty lackluster. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, that this is, whatever, this is their fault or this is bad for them or whatever. They shouldn't, you know what I mean? But, I don't think they really, I think they even said on the podcast that they didn't have any input into that promo. Yeah. That was something the network made because they thought that's what people wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. Oh, you want answers? Well, okay, you're going to get fucking answers. Tune in to get your answers.
Tune in this week because you've been tuning in for weeks for answers. Here's the one you've been waiting for.
And he talked about that, and he talked about it like this makes the show bad that they promised, and it was this aspect of like they were promising answers, and they didn't deliver,
Yeah.
But like another version of this that I think is more fair because it's actually in the show is he talked about, it was something you brought up on the last podcast, I think, the mystery sound, like they do this, there's this little sound that they play when like something weird happens.
Yep.
And he brought that up and he was like, well, this is obviously important because they're playing this sound. And they always play this sound to tell you that, this is a big thing that they'll come back to, and this will have a big significance, and it'll be a big answer later, know. And he kind of stops there, and it's like, yeah, they want you to think that. Obviously, they want you to think that.
And that's the thing about the show. Like, If you haven't realized that, like, the man behind the curtain, is just a regular person. Like they, like that level is there of like keep going with the this, I'm trying to unlock the show. Like don't just stop at, oh, this is a regular show. And in a regular show,
Yeah.
like this thing happens. Like I mean, hey, we were there years ago. That's what we did years ago. I mean, I feel like he needs like another 5 to 10 more years doing this, and he'll really. It's funny. It's just like a kid believing in Santa Claus. And it's just like you can't really quite explain to them how ridiculous that is, and like how like you're so far off. Because it's this other thing, you can't see the forest through the trees,
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's this other thing. And especially when, like, okay, use that logic and say, okay, well, when they do the sound, it's important, they'll come back to it. Well, see if they actually come back to it. See if it's actually important. And, like, and if it's not, then it's like, oh, okay, then, like, maybe that means that when you hear this, it's another manipulation and not, like, actually the genuine thing that you're used to. Like, yeah, we've had other encounters with things like that where it's like, hey, but no, this way they use it like this, and it's like, no, they can change their minds.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like somehow the presentation like implies a contract or a promise or something. Like if we present this to you as though it's an intriguing mystery, then that somehow obligates us to give you either, a certain kind of resolution to that, and I mean, in some cases they do come back to it, but then he's like, but it was nothing. He went on about the numbers, the numbers being stamped on the thing, in addition to just talking about the continuity error. Like he just talked about how like, this is such a shitty answer, and it's like, yeah.
You mean the fact that the numbers are just stamped on the hatch and that's the last thing we see?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
like what a disappointing reveal that was about where the numbers came from.
Of course it was.
I know. See, that's
so weird, man. It's so weird to hear that because I mean, we're so far beyond that idea of like. I mean, that was like, was it 2 years ago when we realized that? Like,
the
whole chronological aspect of the show. Like, if you look at things chronologically. Yeah, I feel like if you look at things chronologically, do they have the same meaning?
Yeah.
I think, and it's so funny, and I think that shows why we have to write the book, like, and how we have to like explain that idea, and like, I feel like the book should be like, creating that bridge from like that kind of thinking to like our kind of thinking of like, here's the way to look at the show, and now that you can see it this way, now what do you think? Like,
right.
You might still hate it,
and that's perfectly valid.
Yeah, at least hate the thing it is.
Yeah.
Not the thing it tricked you into thinking it was.
Exactly. Because that's like falling into the trap, and that's why I feel like since he noticed the mystery sound, since he's talking about how disappointing these answers are, I feel like he's in a way on the right track. Like if he could just push beyond that and not just get stuck saying, well, this sucks, like turning into that guy from the Damon Lindelof is annoying sketch. Like, well, it was shitty. Like, I hated it, instead of just having that reaction, like thinking about like, what if they're doing that intentionally? Like, what does that mean? What are they trying to say? I feel like it's, you can, that it's in the right direction. It's just, but he's just stopping like too early.
Well, he's hitting the wall. Yeah, he's hitting the wall of the reality of analyzing the show, and you got to break down those barriers and like look at it a different way. And that's the thing. I mean, that's how we've come up with some of the recent like tools. Is like, okay, we hit a wall. Okay, so does that mean that the show is like impenetrable and like this idea or this whatever they did like will just should we put this in that we'll never understand this column, which has stuff in it.
Oh, there's stuff there, yeah.
And it's like, do we just put it there and say, okay, well, we just don't understand why Locke had telekinesis for one moment.
Right.
He just decided to have telekinesis.
Right.
At the end of the show, they decide to tell us,
So
hey, by
weird.
the way, this guy has telekinesis. And like, I remember that moment of hitting that wall and then like trying to just reframe it and going, okay, well, what could that tell us then? Maybe that's an answer. Maybe that is supposed to connect to something else.
Yeah.
And then you connect it to, oh, by the way, he's been flying around the whole time.
Yeah.
We've already realized he's, more or less flying consciousness. So, like, maybe he has telekinesis.
The stuff flying around in the cabin.
Yeah, stuff flying around the cabin.
Like, yeah. But it is subtle, like, sometimes, to, like, put that together. And so it's like, I think we had a conversation like this on the Economist podcast about this whole issue of Widmore and Desmond and Penny and who knew what about what, when, and how.
Mm-hmm. Are you still recording the green room?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're still rolling.
Nice.
I guess, I feel like I should do something with this. This is podcasting here.
Yeah, for sure.
But we're talking about that whole thing, like, how did Widmore and or Penny know that Desmond was on the island? Like, it's
such
like
a simple. I mean, that's like their storyline is like, basically the heart of the show romantically or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, even kind of more so than...
Which we're going to get into right here.
We're going to get into right here. Look at us having a topical conversation.
Yeah.
We're so good that our tangents aren't even tangents anymore. Our tangents are parallel. Yeah, same thing. So... Yeah, I mean, I find that to be really interesting that's something that we don't even know, and it's just a beat that's important. I mean, the Desmond Penny storyline doesn't have that many beats, and it's like, why isn't that one of them? Like, how they know, I mean, any other show would have had the scene with Penny and Widmore where she's upset, where she blames him for Desmond being lost at sea, where she maybe even suspects that he knows something, whatever, and then she goes and investigates and finds out that Widmore knows because he's been tracking Desmond, or he's whatever the practical answer is, like, it's so strange to as you said before, like, we don't ever see them together, two major characters in this whole big storyline. That's a crazy choice.
Yeah. It's so strange. And we're going around in circles. Like, well, she was looking for the electromagnetic anomaly. Like, and but it's like, but why? Why would she look for an anomaly? It makes no, you know what I mean? Like, you no matter, even if you back it up, it's still just like, he's in a boat. He's literally sailing around the world. He could be anywhere for all she knows.
Mm-hmm.
Why is she looking for why would that have anything to do with finding his boat and where he is? She knows he's on the island. I think this constant is the episode where she's going to say, I know about the island. So we'll finally, get that confirmation. But we're going around about it, and like finally it comes up what I think is probably the closest thing to an answer we'll ever get about it, which is that the connection has to be Miss Hawking.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. She's the only character on the show who could have actually known that Desmond would end up on the island and had a connection to Widmore.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, any of the other explanations we came up with are so flimsy compared to that. It was like, Widmore has a spy on the island. Some off-island others are still loyal to him.
You really, really have a good point, because Miss Hawking is invested in Desmond completing the greatest thing he'll ever do.
Yep.
And yeah, if she told him to go marry her and all that stuff, then why wouldn't she tell, when she knows what's going to happen to him, why wouldn't she be there to connect that dot also and tell Penny that Desmond's on the island and like what to look for?
Yeah, so I sort of feel like the reveal that that there is a connection between Miss Hawking and Widmore, like, a pretty big one. They actually like had a kid together who's also a character on the show. I feel like that reveal, and the fact that that's wrapped up in this episode. It's wrapped up with time travel. It's Faraday, and Desmond is right there in that storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that reveal is subtly telling us that that's how Widmore knew. That's where Desmond would be. And presumably Penny found out from him. That would be my guess. Because we weren't even sure who found out, from whom and all that.
Wait, what are you saying? Widmore found out how?
From Miss Hawking.
From Miss Hawking. So she told both of them. But why would she tell Widmore?
Why would she tell Widmore?
Yeah.
Well, don't ask that. Why would she tell Widmore? That's a good question.
Couldn't she just have told Penny?
She could have just told Penny and he found out from her.
Yeah.
That's possible. Maybe she would have told Penny because, she wanted to say, like, here's why Desmond has to go.
You know what I bet? I bet that Widmore had that station in Antarctica looking for electromagnetic energy. Like that was his thing, because he was trying to find the island all that time, and that's exactly what a rich billionaire would do.
Yeah.
But have some poor people do the work for him,
right?
And then like Penny intercepted it. She could have just easily have called. Like maybe, Miss Hawking knows, is at the lamppost, which has the coordinates of the island.
Yeah.
She could just easily tell Penny, hey, look in this area.
Right.
and then she could have just, like, we're still need a bridge of how she knew this, but, like, she could have just called Widmore's guys in Antarctica and said, my father wants you to look and, and call me when it happens, and then she gets that jump first, but then, like, they do also tell Widmore, because that's their boss, at some maybe later point. Because I feel like that's a scene that you could see on TV.
Yeah. And in a normal show, we would see that scene.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, as it is, we just have to imagine what it might have been.
Yeah. And, that I like that. I like that. That feels pretty good to me of crossing off all the bases there.
Yeah. I mean, it's at least plausible that it could happen. The other explanations just kind of feel like
and I like it when it's a little action, versus like a big series of things that have to explain something that we can't really prove, because then it's like so much more to have to get right, versus like this whole thing pretty much makes sense with just Miss Hawking telling Penny, and then Penny talking to the it's like two phone calls, can make this all make sense. So
yeah.
Nice. Should we get into the episode?
Do the actual thing? Yeah,
do the thing we meant to do.
Sure. So should I stop this thing?
Sure. That's the end of the green room.
Okay.
And that was the green room with Claudia and Justin.
Yes, it was.
Nice. So I'm really looking forward to rewatching The Constant. This is TV's biggest episode, right?
Yeah. I think there's a general consensus about this, just like there is that they were dead the whole time.
They were dead the whole time.
They also agree
And-
that while they were dead, the best thing that happened was the constant.
This is the best thing that happened.
And yeah, whenever you see lists, best episodes of Lost, even like best episodes of TV, Constant comes up all the time, and it's always number one for Lost at least.
Yeah.
You know, other episodes from other shows might win overall, but yeah, for Lost, like, and even I think even Damon and Carlton have said, you know, they think it's the best episode. So, you know, everyone agrees, and you know, I hate to be like the one to come in, and we'll see. You know, we're gonna watch it. I've changed my mind before. You know, I've come in thinking like, well, this is gonna be a piece of crap, and then we watch it, and it's like, hey, that wasn't bad.
That wasn't too bad. Yeah.
And I never thought this was a bad episode. I still don't think this is a bad episode. I enjoy it. It's good. I'm not saying that. I just
stop saying it.
I just. You know, it's just like, I don't know, it's like, you know, the best way I can describe it is it's like, you know, you have a band you like, or, you know, or maybe, you know, director or writer or something, and they have their big hit, you know, the one that everyone likes.
Pulp Fiction.
And, and, you know, there's this thing where, there's this thing where when you're a real fan, when you're kind of deep into that thing, there's a kind of resistance to saying, yeah, that's the best one. And I guess I really feel like it's so isolated. It's really particular to Desmond. I'm kind of skeptical of Desmond in general on the show.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Is we're rewatching this after having a not so much fun with Desmond this go around. Really kind of seeing his character from a different light, and because he, you know, we talked about this before, where he started the show being very cool.
Yeah.
He's the guy in the hatch. He knows something we don't know, and we want the answers from him. And that's a great place to start for a character on Lost. And he was like mysterious, and he unfolded, and all the, you know, he was at Jack at the stadium, and all these things are happening, and he's seen the future, and he's saving Charlie, and he's, you know, lovably drunk all the time, and like very cool character, you know. But then, you know, this commentary rewatch has shown how, like, yeah, that stuff happened. He was being really selfish most of that time. And then just puts a bit different patina on the character.
You want to say patina? Jeez.
I just wanted to make sure in the 10 plus years of doing this podcast, I could say the word patina at least twice.
Yeah, it's a good one to throw in. You don't get to
I just did.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, especially considering what his role ends up being in The Flash Sideways, he's the one who brings them together.
Against their will.
That is true.
It's like your friends are in therapy, and you burst into the therapy place, which is the official title, and you like take them out of their therapy sessions, and you say, no, you've had enough. There's a real world out there,
right?
And you like stop them from, like, it's so weird, it's so strange, because it's like if they were over their issues, wouldn't they have moved on already? I mean,
right.
You know, and it's so weird that all he had to do was say, hey, guess what? This world isn't real, and then that means that they're ready to move on.
Yeah, and I mean, as we've talked about many times, I mean, that whole thing is brought about by the fact that Flash is there.
Yeah.
You know, from
thinking he's gonna go to Pitt.
Exactly, yeah, and so, like, that's how he wakes up, because he sort of, you know, ends up contacting his self from before he died in some sense, and, you know, that gives him the ability to remember that he's dead, I guess, before most of the other characters do. But yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I guess the way he brings it together is like, in a lot of cases, a bit forceful or violent almost. Certainly in
Hmm.
Locke's case, it was
Yeah,
explicitly violent. I think he beat
because
up
it's
Ben
Locke.
too, but Ben didn't go with him, but he definitely woke him up. Um, and yeah, so there is this weird coercion about it, and it does seem like that stuff is supposed to happen naturally, and
Hmm.
it's almost like he cheated, you
Yeah,
know, and like got them out before it was really their time.
yeah.
Um, which that's interesting, and I don't know, maybe that's and it's like just because he wanted to be with Penny, but it's like I don't know, did he need to do that to be with Penny? I mean,
Mhm.
I don't really know. I don't even know why he cared to do all that stuff. That's an interesting question. I guess we'll probably have to think more about the Flash sideways.
Cause yeah, now I'm thinking, why did he spend all that time trying to get? This is weird. Why did he spend all the time trying to get everyone to wake up and not just go to find Penny?
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah, yeah. That didn't bother me until now.
I'm really upset that that never bothered me. And now it's like the most obvious thing to do. Wait, he's doing all this to get to Penny, but when he
Yeah,
goes into the light cave, he wakes up in the Flash sideways, where all of his pseudo friends are.
right.
But he does. But Penny's not there. Is she? Wait, is she? Do we ever see her?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, she's there. She's there.
She's there.
I think if I remember right, I think he finds her first.
Is
Um,
that what it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think at the end of that episode, happily ever after, like he finds her, and then he's like, okay, I need the manifest from Flight
Oh,
Ed
that's
15
right. I forgot
because I
about
gotta
that.
show him something, you
Yeah.
know. So it's sort of like he's got Penny,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it seems like he should just. Oh, but that's the
go
thing. That's the thing. They have to move on together.
right.
Now, I don't remember how he got that idea.
I don't either. I have no idea where he got that idea. They could have had a scene where he talks to Christian Shepherd or where he talks to someone else, you know. But yeah, it seems like it just came out of nowhere. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what we're supposed to think about that. It's weird. Um, but yeah, I mean, the original point I was trying to make, which like sort of got invalidated by what he actually did, was that at least symbolically, like he's kind of serving as the glue or the one to bind them and bring them all together at the end, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And that's interesting considering the fact that it seems like he's the least invested in any of them, and maybe one of the
Yeah.
more selfish characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's an
Well,
odd
and
role.
yeah, and that's what's interesting. He wasn't part of 815 Crash, so he doesn't
No,
have that to bond them as the others do. Yeah, it's interesting how he gets to be, part of that group. But
I mean you can say Charlie was I mean you could say some of the other characters were selfish. I mean, but Charlie, I mean he died to try to
mhm.
get him rescued. Um, you know, Desmond, he had to be forced to come back to help,
Yep.
and he would not help until he became convinced that if he helped, he'd get to see Penny again.
Yep.
And so that just screams like it's not about these people; it's about Penny.
hmm
And if that's all it's about, then like,
Then yeah, then the question becomes, what lesson is he learning with this character arc? Like, it seems like he should have learned, like, oh, I'm trying to get to Penny all this time, and she keeps getting further away. Maybe I should be more selfless to others or something, and then I could get there with them. That should have been the idea of the show,
yeah,
but like, I mean, a little bit of that kind of worked out when they do reunite, but like, getting off the island and stuff. But like, it's just weird.
yeah, yeah, it's really strange. And I feel like like Sun and Jin or something. I mean, I feel like they did have some connections with the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I mean, it was a lot about the two of them, but it wasn't only about the two of them.
Juliet in the maternity leave,
Yeah.
all
Jen had a
that.
whole thing with Sawyer
Jen and
and with
Michael and
Michael.
building
Yeah.
the raft and
Yeah, like Jen, I mean, Jen lived in the 70s with
yeah,
all those people for 3 years without
yeah,
son.
without son.
That's a completely different,
Hmm.
I mean, that changes things. I think I buy their commitment to the group more than I do Desmond.
Yeah, no, Desmond was an outsider,
Yeah, and yet he's somehow a linchpin for the whole thing. So it's like
yeah.
it's weird. I guess, yeah, maybe that's like one big thing I don't buy into, and that's part of why you know this this episode, as good as it is, feels like it's kind of a tangent, and
Hmm.
it's not really the core of what the
Well,
show.
what is the core Losty group? Because I mean, it should be a bunch of different types of people from different parts of the show, right? So we have the core of the A15
Yeah,
cast.
they're
We
in there.
have we have Juliet, who was another. Well, and
Yeah,
then Ben is sort of included in the larger scope,
sort
but
of. Yeah, I think
and
he's
then
he's at least halfway there.
yeah, and then who else is in the groups? Yeah, some of the freighter people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Although they didn't quite make the cut for the final
Yeah.
thing, but I mean, they were around. I feel like they're kind of halfway there. They're
Hmm.
sort of like Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Desmond, yeah, Desmond gets in there.
Yeah, yeah, he made it
Well,
inexplicably.
we talked before about why would Desmond be the one to have this relationship with electromagnetism and yeah, it seems like what's missing is like, oh, he was born on the island,
Right. Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
He's, uh, yeah, I feel like yeah, something like that. Like he was born near the light cave or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It does seem like that's something. I mean, that's what they did with you know some of the other characters with abilities. I mean, I guess Hurley is the other one where
Hmm.
that doesn't seem to be true, but it sort of reminds me of like that whole thing on Harry Potter of like there's the people who are just kind of born magical,
Hmm.
and then there's just the humans, the so-called Muggles, who usually can't do magic but sometimes can.
Hmm.
It sort of reminds me of that. Like if you're born on the island, you have a better chance, but
Yeah.
you know maybe you can manage to like you know acquire the powers in some other way, or maybe they're still connected to the island somehow. Maybe it was just the time they spent there.
Yeah.
Um, Desmond's time in the hatch, or turning the failsafe key, or something. I mean, turning the failsafe key is a little tricky because it's like, well, didn't he need that ability to even survive that? And it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, well,
You know what I just realized is it's kind of interesting and a little strange that Jacob's idea was to bring people to the island. He had like two reasons, right? Like, and I think that it makes it strange because like the theme of the show is for these characters who are broken to come to the island and get fixed or healed or understand why they're broken, right?
yeah,
Um, but it's weird that's also what he stated as a reason that he brought them there. But then also there's the idea that he's looking for a candidate to replace him.
right,
And I feel like it would have made sense if the reason he brings people to the island is to find a candidate, and that's the only reason.
yeah,
But the reason that the characters are who they are in the show is this whole idea if they're broken. You know what I mean? And it's a metaphor that isn't really spelled out like that explicitly. You know, so I just find that strange that like they like a character told us what the theme of the show was, or a
Right.
theme of the show was, just as exposition for his like motivations.
Right.
It seems weird to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's like I brought you here to have character arcs.
Right, right, right. I mean, it's supposed to be practical to a certain extent. If they are doing really well in their lives, then they'll be, you know, in a just kind of straightforward way, like less able to benefit from being taken to the island, and maybe also less inclined to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess at that point it was about the candidates, but just to throw in like, in addition to, I bring broken people and I bring candidates, there's another thing there, which is I bring people here to prove that,
Yeah, yeah,
mankind is
and
good.
now you have to set up a Venn diagram because some of those things relate to each other.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, yeah. Don't forget the game.
yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas
it's
like
like so.
normally it would be one of those things.
Well, I guess that's what it is though. It's interesting. It's kind of it's like a three-level relationship correlation, right? So the bottom level is person to person. So between Jacob and Men in Black, the answer is it's the game. I bring people here for the game. Between Jacob and other people, it's I bring you guys here for your own self because you're broken. And between the show and the audience, it's and Jacob in the audience, I guess. It's I bring them here, you know. Oh wait, what was the other reason? The game. They're broken. Oh, for candidates.
Candidates.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
candidates. For like the mystery part of the show. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, just a replacement for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a different thing. I mean, yeah, you would think it would be somewhat related, but the goal is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily about proving a point, even if that might be a side effect, or you could kind of work it in there. But it seems to me like he was bringing people there for the game before he was bringing candidates there. That's the
Yeah,
impression.
and it seems like if you wrote this as a novel, you would have spelled it out that those were all connected. Like
Yeah,
in order for me to have a replacement, I have to prove that a broken person can be redeemed, and and then therefore they can become my replacement.
right.
It's yeah.
Yeah. That would be the normal thing to say, or yeah, kind of make clear. Because I do remember like a fair amount of fretting in season 6 about that, because they would tell us. I mean, so it's kind of similar to what ends up happening um, with the island, that we have we have that whole thing with the bottle and the cork and the wine,
Oh
and
yeah.
the island is the cork that keeps the evil from, so you
Mm,
have that whole thing, and then you have the Cave of Light,
yep.
which, I mean, maybe it's that, but if it's that in a way that, is a
Mhm.
bit more complicated than it seemed when he described it, you know,
Yeah.
in terms of the bottle. Like there's more going on there than that. At least it seems that way.
Mhm.
So it's just like they tell us like multiple explanations, and then but they don't necessarily say how they're related.
Yep.
And so yeah, it's just like up to you to decide what that means. If
Mhm.
one is more valid, if sort of they all kind of work together somehow, um, maybe they're conflicting, and I don't know. I mean, you know,
It reminds me of a now that you say it like that, it reminds me of a religious text.
yeah,
It's like the Bible. It's like, well, here's all this stuff written down and there's various explanations for the same thing, and some parts don't make sense, and some parts, am I supposed to take this literally, or
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I mean, Jack goes down in the cave. Desmond too. There's like a cork down there.
yeah.
Is that literally what he was talking about, or is that just like a weird coincidence?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or was the cork a metaphor? It's like the magic box.
Yeah.
Like there is
Yeah.
no cork. It was a metaphor. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a cork, but that's not what it does.
Yeah, I mean, that's lost right there, man. That's lost right there. The K audience, okay, there's a cork. Okay, there's a cork. We're looking for cork. The key word is cork. Then you go and you find a cork. It's like, no, guys, that's not a cork. No.
Because it didn't do. I mean, he was saying the island was the cork, but if the cork on the island is the cork, then I mean when they take out the cork, if the metaphor is true, that should mean the evil escapes. But that's not what happens. It actually ends up, taking away the evil, or at least the power from the evil, and allows the evil to be killed, which is, at least according to what Jacob said, you know. So, that's not the same thing, right?
Yeah, well, and it shouldn't be, because why would he know what's down there?
Right. Has he ever been
Yeah.
down there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wouldn't go down there because
I wonder if these are the lost tapes that I want to hear the conversations between Jacob and Man in Black in the 2,000 years between the original creation of Smoke Monster and the main part of the show that we see.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did they ever have a discussion? Hey, what was down there in that cave? Like, you actually went down there. What did you see? Like, like, did they talk about it?
You mean Man in Black went down there?
Yeah.
He was unconscious.
Oh, okay. So, but he flew out of there. I mean, did he not? I don't know. Did he have no sense? Was he just kind of acting on instinct or something? Like, I guess.
Or
maybe the shock of being turned into a smoke monster, like he wasn't really paying attention to his surroundings. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be transformed into a smoke monster.
Well, now that we've got
that
on record.
You're right, he was unconscious.
Yeah, that's a whole strange thing. I mean, why... you could write a book on questioning why did the Man in Black not question his existence more?
Yeah.
Like, what is he?
Yeah.
like he never really was like, guys, what am I? Like, I need to get off the island to figure out what I am. I need to, he didn't. Like, that was also something that was a little bit of a letdown, where it was always about just leaving the island, and it would have been much more interesting to a degree, I think, if he was like, I need to figure out what I am, and or even like a goal, like I'm trying to get into another body, or I want my body, or I'm trying to get I'm trying to uncover the time travel power of the island so I can go back in time and stop Jacob from even killing me or whatever. Like, that would have been interesting. That would have been something. But yeah, he once he becomes Man in Black, like, he just is the thing. And he doesn't seem to question it. So I assume that means he... What does that mean? He's made peace with it. He has.
I guess so. I mean, he had a long time. Like, we don't know if he, like, maybe he spent a while questioning it and gave up on it, and eventually just wanted to leave. That's part of his story that we don't really see. But that reminds me of something that kind of bothered me about season 6. Thinking back, like, early on in season 6, a lot of the time he was saying things like, I just want to leave. Like Jacob's like
Mm-hmm.
Jacob thought like this island was special and that it needed protecting, but it's just an island. There's nothing
Yeah.
special about it. And it's like, well, no, I'm sorry. You're a
Yeah.
smoke monster. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't get to say there's nothing special about the island. Like you know that's not normal. You know most islands don't do
Hmm.
that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
at the very least from scanning people. And so like that whole idea like I mean maybe that was just manipulation and he was lying, but I did always wonder like what does he really think about what happened to him,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think we never really find out, you know. But aside from just being angry that he's trapped there and that he's maybe not human anymore, you
Yeah.
know. But we don't really get beyond that. And I think yeah, I think that would have been interesting to delve into some more.
Yeah. Well, this has gotten me really uncomfortable about the state of what I think about Smokey. Um, yeah, now I'm really confused about what he thought about himself. You didn't really bother me before in the last
Yeah,
10,
I
10
hate
years
when
of
that
podcasting.
happens. It's like
Yeah,
things can just, you just let them go for so long, and then suddenly it's like, why did I let that go? Like that's kind of a problem.
because he knows he's a smoke monster.
Yeah, he definitely knows that, and he knows all the stuff he can do because he's a smoke monster. You know?
Maybe he just thinks, because he grew up in like an ancient time, maybe he just thinks something mystical happened and it's, I don't know. I was gonna say not a tribute to the island, but he's got to know.
He's got to know it was the cave. And I actually feel like, I mean, they didn't make this connection, but I feel like maybe we're supposed to think, because he agrees to take Desmond to the cave, and he and Jack have this little showdown about
Mm-hmm.
like, well, he's gonna go down there and then I'm gonna kill you, and like, no, 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 he's gonna go down there and then the island will be destroyed and I'll escape, you know, and
Yeah,
like I don't know if he realized or even thought about the idea that if he unplugs the power of the island, he's actually gonna
yeah.
kind of be human again.
I don't think he knew that.
Yeah, he probably didn't
Why
know
would he
that.
know? Why would he know that?
He shouldn't know that necessarily.
Yeah, you should know that. There's no reason to give him that burden of
But in a
knowing.
way, like I feel like that's part of what he wanted,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, and so, but I mean, there's no chance to really talk about that because it's immediately like battle mode as soon as that goes down.
I
But
wonder.
the idea of what that means, that clearly, like at that point, it's 100% that his powers, his smoke monster abilities, all that is 100% from that, whatever's in that cave,
Mm-hmm.
and so therefore from the island in some sense.
I'm just thinking, what if? Well, this is weird. So I was just thinking about Smokey leaving in like as a smoke monster,
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if like what if that energy, that feel the time barrier around the island, what if that was an effect of like the almost like a Protoss pylon where like
wow.
like the light cave
Uh-huh.
is like the pylon, and it
Yeah,
has a radius
yeah.
of its effect, and that's so if the island were to disappear, it would be at that radius,
Mhm.
and maybe Smokey can exist outside of that, and maybe that's as far as I got.
I feel like that might be true. Although, because I mean, that's one of the questions. Like, why didn't he just try to leave? Like, how is Jacob preventing him from leaving? You know, And it brings me back to the idea that either one, he didn't really try because he thought it was impossible. He just believed in the rules that much.
Mm-hmm.
Or he did try to leave and he really literally wasn't able to. Like, I'm imagining, I mean, it could have to do with him being a smoke monster, but, another thing that we know happens is that, with Desmond, like, he tries to leave and he ends up just sailing in circles because you have to follow this really particular bearing,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the real question would be if the smoke monster followed the bearing, could he get out? Because I could imagine for a long time, if he didn't know exactly where to go, maybe he did even get a boat, but he couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, we
get out.
talked about the barrier being akin to the sonic fence, and I wonder if it's a similar thing of like,
Yeah,
that barrier is just like an electromagnetic energy, so which is what the sonic fence would have been. So
yeah,
maybe that's the show trying to connect those two things.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but back to what he said about the island is just an island. What if that means the other thing instead of meaning that? Okay, he's saying that there's nothing special about the island. Maybe he's saying that all islands are this special. Like
Yikes.
we know the electromagnetism is all over the planet.
Right,
It's just stronger in different pockets,
right,
different places. So maybe he's saying, listen, guys, like this energy is everywhere. Like there's nothing special about this island in terms of that.
right.
Like there's other places this adventure could have taken place.
Mm-hmm.
This is, you know what I mean? Like there's another pocket somewhere on Earth that's just as strong and could have the same results. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But this just happens to be the place where man and or Jacob threw his brother into a
Right.
hole. You know what I mean? And that's why there's a smoke monster.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what he's saying is that idea, which to me would make sense.
Yeah,
Like the guy in Australia that Rose Bernard went to see. That was healing
yeah.
electromagnetism.
Right, right. The special pockets and all that
Hmm.
stuff. You have to find the one that, whatever.
And that's the show kind of telling us, like, hey guys, it's not just about this island. Like, asking, what's the island is just not a question you should be asking
Right.
because everywhere is like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you also could couple in the idea that this place is a little bit more special because of like the incident or something. Maybe that's why there's some extra craziness going on. Because
I mean,
they
there's
fucked
definitely some
the podcast.
insinuation that the particular things going on there on the island are have some kind of global significance that maybe isn't true for all islands. But, I mean, none of that stuff's verifiable. I mean, that, talking about the world consequences of what's going on the island is, one of the many
Well,
rabbit holes we go down a lot. And it's pretty hard to get any definitive
well, what I would
answer.
say is that any island has that potential to be that consequential. You know what I mean? Like any island or any place on Earth with of that same level of energy underneath it, that maybe you want to also add was tapped or something.
Yeah, I guess is that the difference? Like it was harnessed, like people actually,
Like that's why it was unstable.
because the cave was actually built. I mean, the stuff down there, you could see that it was constructed. It had
Yeah.
hieroglyphs and stuff on it, and so people went down there and messed with it. And I mean, I guess you could think of Dharma as just the modern equivalent of that.
Yep.
Um,
I think they did.
and also the other stuff that was built, various places. So it sort of seems like that's the thing they're saying. Like people kept harnessing this particular thing. But it does seem to me like they're trying to say there's something particular here. I don't know. People got there first. I don't know what the thing is. That like you can't.
Well, it's
just,
probably this is the thing where it happened to happen. You know what I mean? Like this is it has you know if it's gonna happen, it's gonna be somewhere.
right.
It's like Jurassic Park. There's gonna be some island that had dinosaurs
Right.
on it.
But there's only one Jurassic Park.
It's only until
At
the
least
and their
at
movies.
first. Yeah.
fourth movie.
So in the sequel, there'll be more islands.
More islands.
Yeah.
Speaking of more islands, would you like to start a podcast
Yeah.
on
More
commentary
islands?
on islands? The Constant, everybody's favorite episode.
I would. I think we should.
Did you hear that speech Obama gave where he was like, "Oh yeah, and the Constant on Lost was great," and that happened.
You know, it sounds like a joke, but I kind of believe it.
Yeah, no, it did. It
I
happened.
could totally see him saying that.
Yeah.
It's a universal truth.
Mm-hmm.
That
He's cool. He watches Lost.
yeah, of course. Now he talked about something happened with that. I don't remember what it was. What was it? Like maybe he was gonna give a speech or something. I don't know if it was Lost. It might have been some other show. But there was like maybe State of the Union or something. It was gonna be on the same day as some show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like he had either the time moved or the day moved or something.
Was it?
I
It
don't
was
remember.
something, yeah.
I don't remember
know
which
if it
one
was
that
the Emmys or it was something that it kind of made sense to do that. It was like everyone else is gonna be busy.
Yeah. But I
The
remember he said
Olympics?
something like, I don't want people to have to miss whatever
Yeah.
to,
Breaking Bad finale.
Oh, it could have been. It could have been.
That seems weird for a TV show to interrupt the presidential state. I feel like it was something bigger. I feel like it was like
It could
a
have been something.
big multi-million viewer thing.
Hmm.
Some like a sports game. The
No, but I
Super
think it
Bowl?
was a show. I could be wrong, but I think it was a show.
Wasn't the Super Bowl?
I don't think so.
Super Bowl.
I mean, Super Bowl makes more sense. You're right, but I think it was a series. I mean,
Yeah.
unless I'm, whatever. Unless I just
Now, what to find out?
dreamed it or something.
All
Yeah.
right. Are you ready for the concert?
I'm ready.
All right, everybody, get your players ready if you're gonna watch The Constant with us. Everybody's favorite show. I can't get over that.
Yeah. Yeah, me either. But I think I'm ready.
Nice. Excited to watch this. All right.
Yeah.
Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No, previously almost.
Again, we don't need context for this one.
Mm-mm.
Just jump right in.
It makes it so dramatic too, because
Yeah.
you just don't have the context.
The natural rhythm, yeah.
I remember this being a crazy shot,
Yeah.
and you were just like, okay, they're just gonna fly away now. That was a thing you could do,
Yeah.
and we just seeing it.
Yeah.
Even that cheat sheet looked confusing.
Yeah, I don't understand the cheat sheet at all. I forgot about that. I thought he just gave him verbal instructions, but
Mhm.
I guess off screen he made him a thing. You're a thunderhead.
And this is another thing too, like you don't really know if it's a storm because they're close to the barrier. Because
Right.
I feel like you don't see that storm off the beach, right? Or
I
is
don't
it
think
there?
so.
You know?
Actually, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't remember. We'll have to watch. I don't remember how many scenes we even get at the beach here. So I don't know what we're supposed to think. But yeah, you're right. It seems like the storm is caused by the barrier or something.
Yeah.
Or the storm is the barrier. I don't know.
The barrier, yeah, is causing the storm.
Yeah. I think it was storming when they came in, too,
Mm-hmm.
on the helicopter.
Well, and that's why, like, yeah, the helicopters always have a problem landing.
What?
Oh, man. Oh, man. So we get a flashback.
Yeah, so now it's
Mm-hmm.
really crazy.
Now it's like, and I was in a hatch, and
Yeah, don't say that stuff. It's raining there.
yeah. Yeah, this is so weird. I mean, it's having a flashback with the character from the future.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like Flashes Before Your Eyes wasn't like this.
No, and then he like zaps back.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. They
It's actually a
definitely
good point that you mentioned that it wasn't like this, and this is he's presumably close to a huge bunch, huge amount of electromagnetism.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
interesting that it again like it amplifies him, like he's got this innate power or something
Yeah.
to send his mind back in time,
Yeah.
and the more power he's given, the more he can do with that. Yeah, it's crazy. He's
Yeah.
a superhero.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
an
I guess
X-Men.
I guess that's the thing. Like when he did the failsafe, it was this quick thing while he was exposed to it, and I guess now he's being exposed to it over a longer period of time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of playing out gradually, and we're actually seeing it happen.
Yeah.
So here's the beach. As you can see, no storm.
No storms.
It looks nice, actually.
Yeah. No. You could do something else. Don. Oh, Juliet. She's so great. Oh, don't.
Oh God.
Oh man. Oh man, I remember this.
Okay.
Top of everything.
Okay. Yeah. So I was just listening to The Economist where we talked about the payload rocket, and that was confusing as shit. Don't
Hmm.
tell me your perception of
Yeah.
time elapsing is different.
Like it's one thing for our times to be shifted, but don't
Yeah.
tell me the ratio is off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah, he just had a lot of important stuff. I think we missed a couple of things there, but
Oh shit.
yeah, that's fine. He said they're going to be side effects.
Oh right. Yeah, yeah. I guess they're setting up that whole like um barrier sickness thing.
Yeah.
Look, it's a boat.
Look, it's a boat. They made it through.
Wow. I like this helicopter too. It really looks like a helicopter.
It's a real helicopter.
I only say that because of Naomi's helicopter.
Yeah.
It's probably
It was
the
in the
worst
dark.
ever.
Everyone knows helicopters at night don't look like helicopters.
Not her boat.
And then it's like, and then I remember thinking like, wow, there's a whole crew on this ship. It's not just like,
Mhm.
Regina and
Yeah.
one or two people. It's like Here's all the. Look, that's the first round of Kimi.
That was Kimi. Yeah.
Welcome Kimi to the show,
Kimi
folks.
just showed up. Yeah, I love this. They just come in here and we really have no sense of
Yeah.
who they are or how important they might be. It kind of just seems like they're part of the crew.
Yeah. And then it's like he's kind of in charge.
Yeah.
Oh, and then this fucking rivalry.
Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna have a big fight at the end.
Oh, they're gonna have such a great fight.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I guess this the whole thing starts here.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
About that. So this is like the other side of the crazy. Not only did he, in the flashback, he's like, oh, I remember the future. But in the future, he's like, well, I don't know any of you people.
Oh, and so this is the next level of this episode being fucking crazy, is they keep piling on. So it's not just that Desmond went back in time with his consciousness, but the consciousness from the past is now in the body of the future.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other superpower nobody ever wanted.
Totally ridiculous. I can't
Totally ridiculous that they would switch. But guess what it does? It ups the conflict in both storylines.
Yeah.
So now there's someone out of, a fish out of water in both times they're cutting to.
Right.
And they know the least about their time, so it's the maximal, the maximal drama.
Yeah.
It's great. And there's no way for them either consciousness to know that they switched,
Right.
Now, you could ask, what the answer is you can't tell or no, but, does the Desmond of the future, I feel like we talked about this before, does the Desmond of the future remember him doing this right now? Does he remember, when I was, years ago, when I was in the military, I remember my future consciousness going.
Yeah. Having that experience. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oof. Yeah, the time travel issues that come up, it's crazy. I think actually even putting this episode together with Live Together, Die Alone is kind of difficult.
Mm-hmm.
With what they, they show him in the military, but I think what we find out toward the end and stuff with Penny and all that, it sort of doesn't line up, and it's almost like he changed the past.
Oh, jeez.
Like there was a past in Live Together, Die Alone, and now it's a different one.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
That's news, though. Or is it? Maybe it's not news. I guess they knew they were in the Pacific. Given where the flight was going.
Yeah.
And the island hasn't moved yet, so.
But it had moved in the past.
Right.
That's the last thing you want when you're being locked in a room, is to realize another voice is in there with you. Oh, Dennis Fisher Stevens.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Oh, man. Anytime he's cast in something, it's just hilarious. Like the idea of casting him is just funny somehow. Guess who's in this? Fisher Stevens.
Yeah, he has a type, definitely.
He's got a weird thing. He's a weird thing.
He has a small part in The Night Of, and it's
there you go. Look at that.
It's totally a Fisher Stevens type character.
It's great. He's awesome in Hackers, so I love him forever.
I mean, I think he's good. He does what he does really well.
Yeah. Oh, don't say that.
Oh, God. Did he really say that?
He said that.
So they're just, all over the place with the time thing.
Because they're setting up the doctor.
Right. Right. I mean, like we said before, like maybe the idea is it's just chaotic. Like the effects are sort of all over the place. You don't know what to expect, but the time isn't the same,
Hmm.
necessarily, and it's just it's not in a way that you can predict what's gonna
So
happen.
then it's earlier.
But you
So
can
the
still
island is earlier.
call.
Island is earlier than the boat. Okay.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's why that when the doctor's dead on the island, he's alive.
Well, in that case, the boat should be earlier,
No.
right? If the doctor's alive before he's dead, right? So if he's alive on the boat and dead on the island, that means the
Yeah, but
island
he's
should be
dead
later.
earlier,
What?
right? He's dead earlier in the day, right? Because he said it was like dawn when they left,
Right, 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 right.
midday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So if the doctor died at midday,
yeah.
then early on the island in dawn, he would be dead.
Oh God, I'm really confused. Okay, here's the thing I'm stuck on. If he's alive, it's before he died, right?
Yeah.
So if he's alive on the boat, it can't be after he died, right?
Well, but like you said, if it was dawn on the island and it's dusk and it was midday on
But
the
I think it
boat, the
flips. I
boat
think it
is
flips the
later.
other way around.
It makes sense to me for some reason.
I remember really not trusting the doctor.
Right from the beginning.
Like he seems the way he's walking with the syringe, like it's like I feel like he has some crazy agenda. But
Yep.
now that I know what happens, it's not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what I thought. Okay, I'm gonna try. Let's see if I get a reprieve here. So okay, it's dawn where on the boat or on the island?
On the island.
Dawn on the island, dusk on the boat. Is that what you said?
Midday on the boat.
Midday on the
So
boat.
let's just say it's 8 a.m. on the island. Let's say it's 4 hours when it's noon on the boat.
Okay, cool.
So if at 11:59 a.m. the doctor's alive, right, and then at noon he dies,
Yeah, yeah.
then that would be at 8 a.m. he would be dead.
Oh, okay. But I guess the thing that confuses the issue is that when they talk to each other, are they talking to each other at the same time or across the divide? You know what I mean?
Um,
Like, does the talking on the satellite phone make the time shift, or does it transcend the time shift?
I think well, like with
It
the
seems like it transcends the time shift.
I think it's different. I think the satellite phone is one thing, and I think a physical object is another.
Or
It
maybe it
seemed to
makes the time
work. It
shift.
seemed to work differently.
They definitely work differently because otherwise they shouldn't be able to talk. Because even if the time shifted, if the talking is shifted too, then they
Yeah.
should still have the same
So
opinion.
say the doctor died at noon.
Yeah,
At 2 p.m. the boat time, it had drifted to the island.
yeah.
So it arrived at the island at 2 p.m. That would be 10 a.m. on the island. So if at 9 a.m. on the island, or it would have after he, so 9 a.m. So 9:30 on the island, they call the boat. What it then it's 11:30 on the boat, right? Did I get my time wrong? And
Uh,
then the doctor's still alive. I'll have to write it out. I'm getting distracted by the episode.
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
He's already.
Wait, why does he know this happened?
I think because he's already. I think they already, like, Minkowski was already experiencing this effect, and I think he already knew about the barrier. Like, that's how he knows about the
But
bearing.
why does he know Desmond is having this problem? Did they
Oh,
just call him or something?
I guess does he not know, like, Desmond's acting crazy or there's an issue? How did this call start?
That's what I'm wondering is how they started.
Because
This is horrible.
if he
They're gonna
understands that
now.
Desmond's acting crazy, then I think he would probably assume it's this thing. But
Oh, I see. So he knows he's acting crazy because he knows this was gonna happen at some point.
yeah, so that's where it gets even crazier.
Yeah,
Go
so we're
find
like at
me.
4 levels of crazy. Look
Oh,
at
this
Jack.
journal.
Look at Jack.
I know.
He's all on his face. He's such a Jack.
Yeah, so I think that's the closest we get to exposition about
Yeah.
how he knows.
I forgot the rest of the episode is about how he knows.
I love this.
2342.
Of course. You sure it's 11?
Uh-huh.
Oh, God.
Just his mother. So, but then it flipped, right? Because that was in the future. It was future Desmond, right? Oh no, that was. Oh, now I'm really confused.
So I think they didn't
That
switch. I think there's only one Desmond, and it's the past one. And I think the future one is somehow, like, not existing right now.
But I'm talking about which consciousness it was, right? Because at a certain point, the the old Desmond was in the future.
Yeah. No, I think that's what's been happening the whole episode.
But now he's back in the past.
Yeah.
With the information to come.
I think past Desmond is flipping from the future and then back to the past.
But originally it was future Desmond who went to the past.
No, I think what happened is that past Desmond went to the future
But when he's in
and
the
then
plane,
back to the past.
but when he's in the plane, he goes back to the past and he's like, "Oh, I was having a dream."
Yeah.
So you're saying that was past Desmond going
Past
to the future.
Desmond goes to the future and then goes back to the past and then he thinks it's a dream. I think that's what happened.
But when Desmond says in the future, "Oh, well, I don't know any of you people," that's because
Right.
okay.
Yeah, because it's past Desmond. I remember this being a thing because there was the question at the end of, like, does future Desmond ever come back?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Or is it like that thing on Deep Space Nine where, like, a certain O'Brien maybe disappears forever?
Right? Yeah, exactly. They did it on Voyager too. It's weird. Why would being in electromagnetism make the past Desmond come back
Yeah, that's
and not
totally
and
insane.
not the future Desmond go
Go to the
back in
past,
time?
which would make more sense. And that's more like what they're doing with Flash Before Your
Yeah,
Eyes.
and I was wrong earlier when I was saying how it was set up. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And also, Happily Ever After, it's the Desmond in the present exposed to the stuff who travels,
Mm-hmm.
not one from another place traveling to there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is like the craziest version of this by far. But I think one thing, like watching this episode, I think one thing about it that really stands out compared to your average episode is that there's actually um, uh, it's kind of cohesive. It's sort of like one plot line over the
Yeah,
course of the island and the flashback.
yeah.
And so there's like a lot of urgency in both storylines at the same time. They're about the same thing. And we really don't get that very often on this show. It's usually two different storylines, even if they're connected.
Yeah.
I mean, that was even true in Flash Before Your Eyes. And in Happily Ever After, too. It's like they're separated. But here, there really is like, two things going on at the same time. And he's
So
flipping between them.
This is the primer episode where
This is
they
totally
created the
that.
time machine.
It's totally that. The fact that he named the rat after his mother is like
Yeah,
one of those crazy details.
yeah.
It's sort of like that like phone sex operator that Locke was calling Helen.
Yeah.
It's that weird thing that you look back and you're like, oh, ugh, you have some issues.
So now
Right,
I'm
right.
confused.
He knows the maze because he already solved it from the future or something. Is that what he's gonna say? Well, we'll see what he says.
It doesn't make any sense whatever he says.
That's what I have in my head. Like, he knew about it because,
But that means the present rat went to the future and then came back.
yeah, future Rat came to the past, so it's not like the Desmond thing. Oh, that's what he's saying. He's saying he sent the present Rat to the future, and that's how he learned how the maze worked. And then he came back.
Well, okay, no, it seems like he's saying he brought the future rat from the future to the past.
No, I thought he was saying he sent the consciousness of the present Rat.
But
to the
that's the thing, and I think this is why I keep getting confused with it. It's like it's not like if you send the past rat to the future, the past rat will have the memories of the future rat.
Yeah,
and then
that's
remember
that's
that
the
and go
problem
back in
with that.
time. It's that the future rat has the memories,
Right.
and it brings that back in time.
Yeah.
So, which would align with what Desmond is doing, right? Oh no, it won't. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's where I'm stuck. So, I mean, the only way it would work is if past Rat goes to the future and then actually learns the maze and then
Yeah.
goes back.
But that's not what he said happened.
Well, wow, we finally meet Minkowski. Yeah, like strapped to a bed with these he just. You really think I really remember feeling like he was gonna be a really important character,
Mm-hmm.
and
It happens a lot.
he's really just a pawn in all this.
Yep.
If anything, I mean, Kimi is much more important than he is.
Mm-hmm.
What?
So, past rat. How do we know? Okay, so he zapped the rat. So that's the rat in the
Yeah.
present being zapped with electromagnetic energy. Then he waits, and then when the rat comes back, it knows the maze because it has already been trained. And if it's already been trained, that means it's the future rat. So that rat should be
Right.
freaking out of like, oh no, like, I don't know what's going on here. I know the maze, but
I don't know you people. Yeah, right.
Well, that's its own past. Whereas Desmond was hit in the present, but the past Desmond came to that point instead of the future Desmond coming to that point. Here's the thing that's weird. Is he asking if he's going to die in the future or in the present? because
I don't
he
even know.
hasn't been zapped
Both?
by electromagnetic energy in this time.
Right.
So why would he think?
I guess if it's like the rat, um, then it's the past one that's gonna die.
Uh-oh. Wait for it,
Oh
ladies and
shit.
gentlemen. So this is just a hypothesis.
Oh, totally. This is just like the variable theory. It just turns out this one works.
So what? So that what? I don't understand it. And that just gives you an anchor? Like,
Yes.
why does it give you an anchor?
Why?
It seems like an anchor should be something unique in one time period to prove who you are.
No. It's the same thing in both. Somehow that helps.
Because aren't a lot of things the same thing in both?
You would think so. But not, I mean, in this case, it's a little tough because he's on the island.
Mm-hmm.
But that's,
Nice. Great shot.
yeah.
Oh, so that's what it is. When past Desmond is not in the present, then he's just catatonic.
Yes.
Okay, we just never really see that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I get it. Now I get it. Because like the rat was catatonic when its mind went to the future.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like Desmond has the memories, right, of this present Desmond, even though the rat was supposed to have the memories of learning the maze when he went to the future. Like Desmond should know who these people are if he has the memories of that
No,
future.
because this is future Desmond.
How is this future Desmond?
Well, no, okay. This is past Desmond,
This
but
is
future.
past Desmond.
It's future Desmond body.
Yeah, so shouldn't he have future Desmond body's memories and
No,
should
no,
he
no, no. They're gone.
know? But the rat had the memories of the future rat.
But we didn't. But we didn't see the future rat. We just saw the past rat. At least the past rat body. The future
But it
rat.
had the memories.
No, but yeah, because presumably it got them itself. Just like he's gonna have memories right now from what just happened. But I think that doesn't mean
That
that.
doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense.
Why not?
Because the future rat didn't, the past rat didn't. Oh, let's shut up and watch the show. This is important.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this.
Oh no, don't say it. Mm-mm-mm.
Of course.
Two, three,
God,
four.
this is so like.
This is the most 15. I'm the phone.
What are these people?
Who are these people?
Yeah, I get Widmore, but yeah,
They're just artifact collectors,
that's just what
maybe.
it is. Yeah, because presumably the rest of the world has no idea what happened to BlackRock.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what he said at the beginning.
That's my.
Thank you.
And it would make sense that this guy, Widmore, would want that ledger from the Black Rock because he saw that damn ship on the
Yeah,
island.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And he's looking for it. And, like, that's a clue.
Yeah,
If they have any coordinates listed about where they were going.
yeah.
Germaphobe. I've never seen anybody do that. Not with like a hand towel.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not touching any of this.
You have to go
Hey,
to that island, Desmond.
have we ever pondered if the reason Widmore wants to go back to the island is because he's like in bad health and he wants the
No.
healing properties?
That's an interesting point. I don't think so. He left the water running?
I know that guy.
Jesus.
He had already washed his hands.
So
He's not gonna
entitled.
touch it. Yeah, just the idea of being a germaphobe made me wonder if that's because he's has an autoimmune disease or something is happening
Yeah,
to his
that's
health.
interesting. That would make sense. I mean, they never said that, I don't think, but it's very plausible. Did you say Anchor?
Brandon,
Brandon.
stop naming people.
Yeah, so they also dropped that thing about how like someone sabotaged all the equipment, the communications
Oh,
equipment.
that was great with like the notes and like the.
Yeah. It's like, oh shit. Like so like it's already like what the fuck is going on this boat?
Mhm.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it's that rule, right? Of like coming to something new where it's
Yeah.
already been like damaged or
It's
changed.
already messed up. Yeah, exactly. We never get to see
And
the
then
normal
he's just
condition.
dead.
Of
As
course.
soon as the show is done with him, he's just like, and now I'm out. No more exposition for you guys.
Yeah, and Saeed's just like, fuck it. Like, I'll
Yeah.
just hook this thing up. I don't need to understand everything right now. Oh, he's gonna remember it by going to the past.
Mm-hmm.
There's that primer thing again.
Mm-hmm. Whenever you time travel and it hurts your brain and your brain bleeds.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Fisher Stevens, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
And so great. I mean, that's what I love about the writing on this show. I mean, here's what would happen to Desmond. Here's the stakes, everybody.
Yep. Yep. That's the
You
point.
better find that constant.
Yeah.
He
He did. Yeah. That to make it nice and literal.
and he'd even turn it off.
Here it is. Here it is, folks. The overflowing toilet. It's not a
Yeah.
toilet, but this is where that came from.
Wow, that goes way back.
Because I remember thinking, oh wow, you never get to see an overflowing sink. Like that's
No.
great. It's just like spilling on the
Wow.
floor. It's all over the counter. It's great.
So basically, he was about to turn it off, and then
Yep.
he flashed to the future.
So he never turned it off, and then he was just sitting there the whole time on the ground.
That's crazy.
But Widmore left him this address, I guess. What?
What?
I don't know if you know this, Penny, but literally every second in the show, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, you're my constant. Yeah, this is also a weird point where he's gonna like call her and like,
Yeah.
good thing she didn't change her number. Spaceman.
I shouldn't have been a monk.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fine.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I feel like this conversation should not have happened in quote unquote the original timeline.
Yeah. I feel like this is like a line to like a love song. Like this is all lyrics to like a love song. But when I do call you, you have to pick up.
It's gonna be a really important call.
Christmas Eve. You won't forget
Ah,
that.
that's why he looked at the calendar.
So you knew when.
Yeah,
And I love it because that's the weirdest thing you can say to somebody. I'm
yeah,
gonna call you in 8 years
yeah.
and be like really freaked out and
Like,
intense about it.
seriously expect me to call in 8 years.
Yeah. 794608493.
Penny, penny.
Sometimes writing helps the brain remember, but all right. I mean, but the question is, why didn't I mean, and this is just how time travel is works weird. Like, why didn't Desmond have these memories? If this happened, then it always
Right.
happened, right? It's weird.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a way in which it didn't happen originally,
yeah. That's what I was
even
trying to.
though once it happened, it always happened.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because like none of this comes up in Live Together, Die Alone, you know?
Hmm.
And you would think that would be a thing. Like, well, you said you were gonna call me in 8 years. Like, that was supposed to be it. But there's more stuff after this. And they
Hmm.
don't even talk about that. So it's just like, wouldn't she have given up on that? I mean, or wouldn't he mention it again if, okay, well now it's going to be 2 years or 3 years or however long,
Hmm.
Like it's just like it feels like yeah, like this consciousness flipping around like changed things. That's the only way it makes any sense to me. Like they made a new universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the problem is, on the other hand, like the show generally wants to say, no, you can't do that. But I
Hmm.
don't know, maybe this is minor enough, or maybe Desmond's just that special. I don't know.
She's ready for Christmas. She's hanging ornaments.
Is it my boat?
That it looks fake somehow. It's like too. This looks like a dream.
It does.
It's
Weird.
like his brain is hemorrhaging and like no one's on the line, and this is just what like what he's thinking in his head.
Oh, there it was. There was the big line. I know about the island I've been researching, and then of course the line goes out, so we don't get to hear the next part. And
Hmm.
then she says, when I spoke to Charlie, blah, 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 that's when I knew. So
She was researching something.
she was researching something. That's all we get. That's all we get.
But what's weird is the past. I mean, is that the past? This is the past Desmond
I think it's the
talking, right?
past Desmond.
And then he's just gonna stay,
Well,
or
okay.
does he
So
merge?
here's the question. Yeah, so I remember this being a thing. I think we're meant to believe that when he finds his constant, uh, he, yeah, future him comes back and he merges. And so he remembers the stuff, but he knows who Saeed is again.
My consciousnesses have merged. I'm fine.
Yeah, like I think that's the closest they come to telling us that that's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, I remember talking a long time about all that.
We did, and I think it's not. I
Oh
mean, it's not
god.
definitive. Oh, and then we get
This
this.
shot. Oh man. Just me behind by an
They
idyllic
couldn't leave it
scene.
there. Did I see E equals MC squared? Come on,
Of
Faraday.
course you did.
Don't
Of
write
course you
that
did. That's the
down.
first thing you write.
Oh God. I remember being so freaked out by this.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, wow, there you go. Well, okay.
Boom.
Boom. Take that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, but I think, in retrospect, I file that with, he said, "We're next."
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's that kind of thing where it's like, it feels like an important and interesting revelation, but it
Yeah.
really goes nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's no follow-up to that. There's never a moment where things have gone wrong. Desmond will be my constant now. Like,
Yeah.
that just doesn't happen.
I think it like revealed that how big of a deal this was to him already, and that like he knew all this stuff was going to happen. Like it's kind of like the bookend to that, saying
Right.
like after all that we saw in the past, like he had decided then that like Desmond would be his constant,
Right.
as an anchor. And what I guess he figures that's a good anchor for him in the past or something.
Yeah, I guess so, because
Oh, I see. I see. Because he's expecting to get lost doing his experiments, get lost in the time stream, as it were,
yeah.
and might need to. Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, yeah, I guess he now met Desmond in the past, whether he always did that or he just did that now. And so he'll be in both periods, at least if it's close to that time,
Mm-hmm.
so that he could use him. Probably there aren't that many characters that he could do that for, that are on the island and he could get to from his past.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, it could just be a practical thing, but it's one of those things that the placement at the end makes it seem like, another one I put in that category is Libby in the institution. It's one of those things where it's like this surprise at the end that tells you something that, leads you to expect that will come to something later. There will be
Yeah.
a next step in that storyline. And really, I mean, the constant thing never even comes up again at all. Not just for Faraday, but for anyone. It's this episode and that's it. Even when they're time traveling, I mean, I remember even trying to bring it up in season 5 when they're all time traveling around and they start, I mean, Charlotte ends up dying from the time travel effects, which are, I think similar to what they're talking about in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But there's never a thing, and Faraday's even there, and he's never like, you got to find your constant, that's what you do. And
Yeah.
didn't happen, doesn't come up, and it's just
Well,
weird.
what's weird is the whole going through the barrier thing. Yeah. Well, I guess one thing I think is we asked this question before if Desmond was special about the consciousness traveling. So it seems to be fairly certain that if you're hit with electromagnetism, that's what your consciousness does. If it's the right kind, I guess, because it happened to Eloise the rat and Minkowski and Desmond. So like that's just the thing that happens. Right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So it's
Natural
not like
sighting.
it's not just Desmond.
Right. Yeah. I think they all end up experiencing it. It ends up seeming like I think that's kind of what happens. Like Locke decides he needs to go back to the donkey wheel to stop the time flashing from happening, or everyone's gonna die.
That's right. Yeah.
And, when he turns it, they all get stuck in the 70s, and that's how, most of them end up surviving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same kind of thing. It's a similar idea, you know.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good episode. I think I might have been more interested in just how the episode is constructed and all the craziness that they layer on top of each other than like what was actually happening.
Yeah.
Like what was actually
Structurally,
happening
it's
was,
pretty
like,
interesting. I'll give it.
yeah, like the ideas were very cool and interesting. But like what got done through the episode wasn't that interesting.
No. I mean, I guess I guess in terms of character thing, uh, Desmond finally talking to Penny is a big moment.
Yep.
He's been looking for her for the whole show, and
Mm-hmm.
that will continue even after he finds her. He'll still be looking for her, and up till this moment, at the end of season 3, it was like, it was this tragic thing where she talks to Charlie, and he's like running up to the door,
Mm-hmm.
but the grenade goes off and the water's rushing in, so Charlie like slams the door in his face, and he doesn't get to talk to Penny, even though she was right there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, after all these years, after all this shit happening, they finally actually talk, and she's like, yeah, I know about the island.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna come get you. We're gonna be reunited. I mean, I think for the characters, that's definitely a big
Yeah.
moment. And I guess you're meant to connect with that. But yeah, in terms of the the larger story, the plot, stuff like that, it's like I said, it's a bit of a tangent. It's not that consequential.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it's like, that's not the right word, but it's like it could just be like a bonus episode or something. Like, you could kind of just take it out. We already know Penny was looking for him. He just maybe didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's not news to us.
It's like a B-side.
Yeah, like a B-side. Like, you take it out of the season, and like, really, I don't think you lose too much. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of exposition on certain things that they will pick up going forward, but yeah, it's
Well,
not
and that's the thing, like, and then you talk about the sickness, like we saw what Minkowski was going through, but that's not what was happening with the claiming
right.
with Rousseau's crew, so it was interesting that they took time to show how that, the sort of consequences of the time barrier thing, and
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder if that was, if that is just from the incident and before that crazy storm isn't there, it's more, it's like a natural storm, but like there's no time barrier thing so like people in the past who came to the island would just be able to get there normally. Without, going through a time barrier.
Right. Right.
It's interesting. Yeah, the constant. Not too shabby.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like you said, I will definitely give it credit for introducing like some pretty interesting ideas in terms of like how an episode could work.
Mm-hmm.
They do stuff here that they haven't done before on the show, and they really won't do again, except maybe a little bit with Desmond later again. But not even really. I think the extent to which the interaction happens here between the present and the past is, I think, more than we'll ever get anywhere else on the show, where it's literally like, oh, I gotta go to the past so I can learn this information and use it in the present. Like, that's crazy. That never happens. And
Yeah.
so I think that really makes the episode stand out for doing something really unique, and I will definitely give it credit for that. Um, I mean, I think they sell the emotions. It works. Um, but I'm just, yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm not convinced this is the best episode of Lost.
Yeah.
Um, it's not the worst. It's not bad, but
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm missing the magic. You
Well,
know?
yeah. I mean, it's the best at being about this kind of thing,
Sure, I'll give it that.
But
Yeah.
there's so many other episodes that are better for the show.
Yeah. Lost has a lot of aspects, and I feel like this time travel paradoxy stuff is just one aspect.
It seemed like a very high concept, like uh, romance sci-fi movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this guy gets struck with electricity, and he has to, he's time traveling, and he's trying to get the love of his life, and
Right. Yeah.
he's a
Yeah.
crazy scientist.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that makes it seem kind of self-contained. Like it feels like it tells a sort of complete story by itself that's a bit isolated. Tales from the Island or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
That just made me think of something else. So I'm just gonna throw this out here. I don't know if it has any value, but since it's my belief that the loophole involves essentially, to some extent, manipulating time travel in a way that's kind of similar to what we're seeing in this episode, even though in that case it's mostly off screen.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder if maybe the Smokey the Man in Black, maybe if he has some of Desmond's abilities, like consciousness traveling, you know, um, if his
Well, isn't Smokey consciousness traveling? While he's a big ball of something moving around.
consciousness traveling around, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess I mean through time.
Okay, yeah. Like in what way?
Like, I mean, what we have in this episode seems to be past Desmond coming to the future. I think in Flashes Before Your Eyes we have the opposite, which was future Desmond going to the past.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one that I wonder if because like I've been trying to work out like how he manipulated the time travel, how he learned about the various pieces of information, and how he was able to be in certain places at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
And since I was just thinking about the fact that time travel manipulation, like it happens in this episode, doesn't happen in the show very often. I was just thinking, well, it's at least a theory of mine that it sort of happens with the loopholes. So then I started wondering if, given the Smoke Monsters connection to the island, even the Man in Black's like supposed specialness or something, like maybe the idea that could he possibly do something like this, and that's how he would know, to be in a certain place, just like Desmond. That's how Desmond knew, to go look for the number or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Huh.
And like how he would know to be Christian Shepherd, and like some of those things. Could that work?
Well, I mean, we see Desmond use those powers when he gets hit with electromagnetism. So where would Smokey have gotten that?
Well, I mean, Smokey definitely got hit with electromagnetism when he went to the cave. I mean, I guess that's not Smokey. Maybe that's the Man in Black. Maybe he is electromagnetism to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe as such, he can kind of manipulate it more consciously than Desmond can.
Yeah.
I realize this is a crackpot theory. I'm just,
Well, I'm just thinking, like, with Desmond, like, with the failsafe, like, it was he was kind of charged, and then his battery drained, right? Like, it wore off after the
right,
event. So I would expect that to happen in the same way with, like, the going through the barrier, like, it hits you when you can consciousness travel, and then to a certain point, like, the energy dies down, and if you don't get back in time, like, you're dead, like Fisher Stevens.
right.
So I would expect that for Smokey, like even if it was the light cave, like, it would die down at a certain point. But yeah, but like at one point, and is it you think like he's the future him is telling the past him where to be and do kind of stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just to try to explain, like, yeah, how he knew certain things to do, basically.
But why did he lose this battle?
Well, there would have to be a limit on it. Clearly, because yeah, if he really can, the ultimate version of this would be a smoke monster who can perceive beyond time, like wormhole alien prophet
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, where it's like I
Well,
don't
he's
even.
clearly not that
He's
powerful.
not that. Yeah, I'm saying that would be like the
Yeah.
extreme version where it's going to be really
I
hard to.
I think if he had any of that power, the dialogue would be different. How he related to Jacob would have been different. Because if he knew, I don't know. It's weird to think because you have to kind of define what the power is in order to judge it, right? Like,
Right.
does he know he's gonna defeat Jacob, and it just doesn't happen that way because of other things that he didn't see because he only sees one timeline?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a tough one. Trying to think of any evidence that supports it. What supports it? Definitely was hit in the light cave. So he's been hit with electromagnetic energy. I'm trying to think, was there any other times? If he was around it. Hmm.
He would have been around electromagnetism. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. He was down at the donkey wheel. Presumably there's some down there, but maybe that's not significant. Um, yeah. I mean, it definitely might not work. It's just one of those things that I'm looking for something, and
Mm-hmm.
if you have a character who can manipulate time travel, it makes me want to plug that in somehow. Like, can I make that work to help, uh, you know, plug the loophole, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and tie up that loose end of like how
So,
he was able to manipulate the time travel.
okay, let's go through it. So, what do you mean manipulate the time travel?
Well, yeah, that's tough, isn't it? Let's see. So what do I mean specifically? I guess somehow he knew in advance various things, like seemingly. Like he knew that I think so. I don't know how far this goes, but here's some things that I think maybe he knew via time travel.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be um, Ben is going to be the leader of the others. Uh, Ben is going to be uh, jealous of Locke. Locke is going to be the leader of the others. Um,
Okay, so step by step. So, why does he? need to know Ben is the leader of the others when Ben was the leader of the others for like a couple decades. So you're saying
But I think he knew.
benefited by knowing that.
I think he knew it in advance. I think he set it up in a way, or at least helped it along, because I think he wanted that to happen. Because the point of what was going to happen is Ben was going to be leader, but he was never going to get to talk to Jacob, and he was going to manipulate the anger about that to, in addition to the jealousy about Locke, to get Ben to not only murder Locke but also to murder Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
So at least in my mind, that's why it matters. Like, he's the leader of the others, but he's not allowed to talk to Jacob, and that's like one of the big issues.
But I guess my question is, like, how far in advance does he need to know that? Like, minimally. Like,
I guess let's see. I think he doesn't. It's true. He doesn't need to know it that far in advance. You're right. I just think he might have.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, basically, I think I think there's at least a chance that he was appearing as Ben's mother and kind of leading Ben to go to the others, and that's what makes me think he was trying to get him to be the leader, knowing how it would turn out. That's what it seems like to me.
And that was season 2, right?
3.
Oh,
yeah.
3, I mean. But I feel like that's before what Man in Black becomes. You know what I mean? Like, because, I mean, we know he does that to people anyway. He's always manipulating people by appearing.
Right.
So,
So the Ben thing doesn't have to be true. I will admit. But if I go to the Locke thing,
mm-hmm.
I do think that that he knew that Locke would become the leader of the others, and that's something that wasn't true for very long.
But he knew that because Locke was in the 50s.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one more concrete example of time travel manipulation. It's not him doing it, but it's him using the fact that Locke time traveled to sort of have knowledge of the future.
Yeah, but that was a practical way to know that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
yes. So he's able to, I mean, he can, off screen or something, he can scan Locke and he can know certain things.
Well, and quickly, like, it really made sense to me for like 2 minutes what you said, like your whole setup of the loophole. I was like, oh yeah, that's great, that's nice and tidy. Like the idea that Man in Black was going to use the fact that, by scanning Ben, he knew he was insecure in some particular way, that he would have a bad reaction to being ignored by Jacob.
Yeah, you could tie that to the the issues of his dad, or
and that he knew that if he was made him mad about that enough and jealous enough, that he would be mad enough to kill Jacob. Okay, but was it Man in Black pretending to be Jacob to Ben?
Well, so I think the answer to that has to be no. I want that to be true, but I also need it not to be. So
you, sir, could be a Lost writer.
So here's the thing. Like there's definitely evidence that that's true, and it's reasonable. But on the other hand,
it ruins your theory.
Well, it's not just that it ruins my theory. It ruins this central thing, which is that Ben himself believes that he's never spoken to Jacob. And if he spoke to someone pretending to be Jacob, he should at least think that he was speaking to Jacob, you know? Unless he learned at some point that it was an imposter, but there's no indication that that's the case.
So you're telling me when Ben takes Locke to go see Jacob, and the things are flying around the room, and he lies in that moment and says, "Oh, look at Jacob."
Yeah.
But then he doesn't wonder what that was?
What he says to the man in black Locke, who he thinks is Locke, in season 5 is, "I was just as surprised as you were when stuff started flying around." You know? So,
wait, who says that?
Ben.
Tells Locke that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
I mean, he's actually talking to the man in black, but, you know, for him, it's Locke. And so, I mean, it's off screen, but he seems to say that, I wondered what that was, but he just went with it. And part of what happens in that scene, this is another part I don't understand. Like, how did he know? I mean, maybe he just lucked out. I don't know what we're supposed to think about how he was there. But once he's there, I mean, what he's doing there, I think, is he specifically speaks to Locke, which only builds, you know, and then Ben comes to believe that, oh, wow, maybe Jacob really was in there. And he spoke to Locke and not me, you know? So I feel like that's, you know, that's part of
that makes sense. Game. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
And so, I think the idea is that Ben was expecting nothing, but then Jacob showed up and talked to Locke, and it's like, well, fuck that. I mean, they don't bring that up later, which is it's something that also bothered me. I mean, you know, I wish there had been a line or two about that encounter, that part of that encounter, not just the fact that stuff flew around, but the help me thing.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like the help me thing also motivates Locke. You know, I feel like what we're seeing right now with Locke, you know, the fact that he goes back to try to find the cabin. He's gonna go back to the cabin at the end of the season. All the stuff he's, you know, even killing Naomi. I feel like all the stuff he's been doing is motivated by that. That's at least like a part of what's driving him, because he feels like, you know, this force on the island is talking to him, is soliciting him for help, you know, and he's trying to follow that path that he thinks he's on, you know. So I think it works both ways perfectly. It makes Ben jealous, and it leads Locke down the path, you know, that leads to his death.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's a win-win. But I don't quite know. I mean, you know, as we know, anyone who listens to this podcast knows, I mean, the cabin is still a problem. That doesn't solve all the problems about the cabin.
Wait, didn't we solve all the problems about the cabin?
Did we? I forgot. No, did we really?
What's left? Come on, we solved it all. We know. I feel like the ash was the last thing. We figured that out, didn't we?
We got the ash?
Yeah, it's volcanic ash. And it what was it? Electromagnetism.
Oh, okay, yeah,
like the barrier.
Sure.
Volcano is tied to the electromagnetism in the island, so the ash is electromagnetic.
Okay.
And you know, with Dogen and the machines, it was electrometer that he was using.
Right.
It was electrometer, and it was like really obvious what he was doing, and it was like goodness and badness is a charge. It's an electric charge that you can measure. And guess what? Ohms, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I learned from my year as a electrical engineer student. Ohms. Ohms.
Ohms.
Yeah, so don't forget that resistance. And yeah, so we saw that. What else?
Okay.
What else was left? The only thing left, I think, was squaring away the two people, like Christian Shepherd in the cabin and the Eye. We kind of squared that
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and just the issue of maybe we did all this and I've just now forgotten the issue of just was Jacob in there at some point? Yes or no?
oh, I think. Oh, yeah. What did we come to? I think it was. Yeah, because then that goes back to, well, why does Alana
Yep.
say? But then
That's
she's like,
that's the
it's
part that's bothering
it's
me.
the words because it starts with, "Oh, I expect him to be in here,"
Yeah.
and then it ends with, "He was never here." Like,
Yeah.
why did you expect that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she says he hasn't been in a long time, which
Yeah.
I
Oh,
which
that's right. It is. He's
which
been
is
here
still I would say it was
like
still
weeks.
ambiguous, like whether he was ever there. It's sort of like that could mean that well he was there at some point. It was just a long time ago, or it
Hmm.
could just mean he hasn't been here in a long time. Period.
And
Um,
why would he ever be there?
well, that's the thing. I mean, I can the only thing I mean has Alana ever been to the island before? I mean, I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, but if no, my only conclusion is that Jacob said, "Meet me there."
But that wouldn't make any sense. Why would he tell her to meet him somewhere where he wasn't gonna be?
Well, I'm assuming that he was planning to be there when he said it, and that's why he left the note to tell her to go to the statue. You know that plans changed.
Why not just meet at the statue?
Well, that's what he should have done. I don't know why that happened. That's the scene. That's the scene that's the killer. Because it could have been fine. Everything could have been fine. Uh,
So
no,
do you think it's just so that they could burn the cabin down and explain that it was Man in Black in there before?
I think that's the main point of the scene. But they fucked it up because they connected it to Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
When the reveal should have been not Jacob hasn't been here in a long time, but Jacob's never been here.
Yeah.
This is somebody else's cabin, and some people have just been led to believe that
But
Jacob
then
is
they
here.
can't have that because then why would Jacob tell her to be there?
Yeah, and it's not even just that; it's the ash. Like
Yeah.
what's the ash doing there if it's got nothing to do with Jacob?
Mm-hmm.
Smoke Monster's not gonna put ash around it. That
No.
doesn't make any sense. So it's the others or it's Jacob, but that makes me think he did have something to do with that cabin at some point. And so then that's like, but no, why? Why would you complicate it like that? It's
Oh, by the way, I don't know if we mentioned this when we realized that the smoke monster has telekinesis. Oh, maybe we did mention that. Like that's why the cabin could move.
yeah. I think that came up.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one because that's a pretty crazy. I mean, that's some telekinesis right there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Wow.
capital T
That's
kinesis.
not just like your shackles off. That's like
Uh-huh.
this cabin is teleporting around the island. Like, watch this. It's
And
crazy.
why do that?
It's
Why do
crazy, and
that?
so this throws me to why I wish I knew. I wish I knew. It seems like he wanted Locke not to find him until later. I don't know why.
Well, but it flashed in front of Hurley, right?
Yeah. I don't know what
And
he was
so
doing with
it's like
Hurley.
he wanted something from Hurley, but maybe he didn't want to appear like in I don't know. He didn't want to appear in smoke monster form because it would scare him. But I don't know why
Yeah.
he just wouldn't be a person.
It's weird. I don't understand
Oh,
that.
maybe because if he appeared just as Christian, I don't know. Now I'm confused. I don't know. I'm trying to think like if they like did they need it to be in a cabin and do the whole eye thing and then do the whole reveal of Christian? to connect the two? Or did we already know? You already know Christian was a smoke monster at that point?
Uh, I'm gonna say no, but I think we suspected it pretty strongly.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember right, I mean, I think it was the Mobisode that really sealed the deal. That whole
Oh,
like
yeah.
talking to Vincent thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the original thing that really did it was the Yemi stuff because once we find out that Yemi's the smoke monster, the similarities between Yemi and Christian are pretty strong, just in terms
Yeah,
of
that's right.
how they get to the island. And so I think making that leap is pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we did think it was a smoke monster. I think we changed our mind at a certain point uh, because of the way they portrayed him. It started to seem like he wasn't the smoke monster. Um, but then it turned out that we should have just stayed with the original thing.
Yeah.
When he was speaking for Jacob and like, wow, it started to seem like, is that really the smoke monster? Like
Mm-hmm.
it seemed weird.
Yeah. Wow. Well, there's still a lot of digging to do on this show.
Definitely. Another thing I just want to throw in, like in terms of, I don't think the theory works. I throw it out there because the thought occurred to me, this idea that the smoke monster can consciousness travel like Desmond. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's really no. I mean, there's just no way for me to ever try to prove that's true. And you don't necessarily need it to explain what's happening on the show. But the one thing I will say about the smoke monster in general, and this is something that, I mean, it's very lost, but it's always bothered me, that he has a lot of powers that, um, I mean, some of which we pretty know about, like pretty concretely, like scanning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Others of which, there's the telekinesis that you just brought up. Um, that seems more or less definitive. And then there's slightly more uncertain, manipulating dreams, um,
Mm-hmm.
claiming. Um, there's these powers that he has where it does seem like he's not using them as much as he could.
Yeah.
It seems like he has these powers, but he's really reserved about how he actually uses them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's outrageous moving the cabin around, but it's like, couldn't he have done like all kinds of other stuff? Like
Mm-hmm.
it seems like there would have been like tons of telekinesis battles, and it would be like, Professor X or something, like just
Yeah.
shit flying all over the place, and you'd think he would be manipulating a whole lot more dreams than he does, and you'd think he would be scanning a whole lot more than he does.
Yeah.
Because it seems like those are, and looking as appearing as dead people too. I mean, he does that a lot, but he could have done it even more, presumably, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
very useful skill. So it's just, it's a general thing about the smoke monster that he has all these abilities, but unlike most characters who have abilities like that, he's like really not only reticent about using them, but he's even like often unwilling to admit that he can do them.
Yeah.
So it's just it makes the whole thing kind of it makes you as a viewer question if he can even do the things.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if he can do them, why doesn't he do it more, and why won't he admit it? You know. But if he can't do it, then what happens?
Yeah, it makes me wonder if there's like a dichotomy. There's like a split when he's in smoky form and when he's not. It doesn't. I can't
Mhm.
make any sense, but maybe he's unconscious when he's smoky or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
And so he feels like there's this separation. Like, I mean, it can't really be that simple, but I mean, it's simple thing like, oh, when I go to sleep, I'm a smoke
Right.
monster, and I
Right.
don't have I'm Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or something.
Yeah.
But it
He
can't be
does
that
seem to have
simple.
control over what the smoke monster does to a certain extent.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, is it like the Hulk?
Right.
And he transforms
Yeah.
and
If
but he's
anything, I would
but
say
he's
that's a good
driven.
comparison.
Yeah, but he's like driven by this force he can control, but like it's also kind of got an autonomous nature to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's possible.
Well, that'd actually be interesting, because if he was pure consciousness, then he would have three layers. He'd have the id, the ego, and the
right.
super ego. And
Yeah.
so, like maybe, yeah, the id is Smokey,
Right.
and the ego and super ego is when he's in like human form.
Yeah. Yeah. That would make sense. Yeah, I think just
And it's like Trinity. I think we talked about that before with the Trinity, didn't we?
Trinity.
A Trinity with like Smokey, like a three-part thing. Um, remember like yeah, God the Father, Holy Spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and like Smoke Monster's the spirit.
Okay.
I forgot how it went though.
I almost remember that. That kind of sounds familiar, but but yeah, I don't remember why that was a thing, or who the
Yeah, I forgot.
other
But
ones were.
yeah, I don't know. That whole thing's crazy to think about. But yeah, I mean, why would he be sitting around with so much power and not using it?
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
he, Superman? It's a Superman trope.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just yeah, I don't know. It's uh I mean a bit of it is probably just, for plot reasons, but I do wonder why it's just weird. It's a smoke monster that came out of a magic light cave. Like it's weird to me how hesitant they were to have him do crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
you know Even to the point that, and maybe this also is just practical, like special effects, but as I pointed out, it gets me though, like that we never see him transform.
Yeah.
you know I feel like in a normal version of that character you see him transform from
Mm-hmm.
a smoke monster into a person, and the other way around too, but you
Yeah.
never see either one. It's always off screen. It's weird. Like I'm surprised that's how they wanted to portray that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just seems like, I know they're fans of, sci-fi and stuff like that, where, normally you see that stuff.
Yeah.
It really gets me that it's like it's so they're so committed to that idea that, people were arguing, and it was hard to even prove them wrong, that he wasn't the smoke monster.
Yeah.
He was a separate thing, and he was, he controlled the smoke monster, or he could summon the smoke monster or something.
Mm-hmm.
People were saying that because he would leave the room and then the smoke monster would come in. It's like, that's not him.
Yep.
And it's like, how can you prove that wrong? Because they're so,
Well, the light cave proves it wrong.
well,
Because I mean, Man in Black died. We saw his body.
right.
So, and the only thing that shows up as dead people on the island is Smokey.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they have to be the same in some angle, right?
You got a point there. You got a
Yeah.
point there.
I mean, they literally are two separate things.
Right.
So, and one thing is dead.
Yeah.
So you're left with one living thing, and then in the
Right.
future, in the present, like if he's around, you know, um, yeah, maybe he's limited in energy, maybe he
Yeah.
only has so much, and he has to conserve. It never seemed like it, of course, but um,
No. No. No.
I really want to come up with an idea of why this makes sense, but it's hard to.
Which aspect?
Why he has power and doesn't use it all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Like what
I would
does
love
that?
to hear that. I would love to hear
Yeah,
that.
I would love to figure it out. Like I said, like some separation of like, well, that's not me. Like I'm not that
Mhm.
thing. And
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if he does think of it that way, and that, that could explain the I didn't do anything to you.
Mm-hmm.
But that
Mm-hmm.
whole, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Me? Come on.
Me?
That doesn't sound like me.
Yeah. Um, but then it also is like, you see other scenes and it's like, well, I don't know. Don't know how to square it.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. We definitely don't get a lot of the interior life. Um,
No.
the Man in Black, at least not post Smoke Monster transformation.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like we kind of get it before, you know.
And they did have that scene where that POV shot of his
Yeah,
Smokey
true.
running around, and then he like, you don't see it, but he turns into Locke. I
Yeah, he
mean, like,
does. And he
yeah,
picks up a knife, and then yeah. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I'm 100% convinced that that's Smoke Monster. It's obviously the Smoke Monster. It's just like, it's just interesting that because of the way they portray it, I mean, there really were people arguing that it wasn't true, and it was surprisingly hard to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
you know, because we couldn't see it. We couldn't see it happening.
Yep. If you can't see it, you can't prove it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, the same thing happened with this is a really ridiculous comparison, but with Sun and what's his name, the bald guy, she was having an affair with. Uh, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people were like, "Hey, they never had sex. Like, look, he's got his pants on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nothing ever happened. Prove me wrong." And it's like, what do you want? They're gonna show, like, what do you
Yeah.
expect? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, but what can you do? It's like, it's just
You
like
can
either you draw the conclusion or you don't.
you can unfriend them on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't know if these people made it to Facebook. They, they probably did, but I hope not.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, yeah, good episode, good podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I stand by my opinion about this. It's I guess it bothers me for the same reason. Like I said at the beginning, it bothers me when if I'm a fan of some other thing and there's like the one thing that everybody likes.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of feel like there's a lot here in the show. Obviously, right? What are we talking about? Um, and there's a lot of besides the constant,
Yeah.
the constant is not the peak of what the show has to offer. And I guess I wish like people would give some more attention to some other things in the show that I think are,
Mm-hmm.
at least as interesting, if not more interesting. I would say definitely more interesting than what happens in this episode. So I think that's my frustration. It's just, I feel like it kind of takes away, it makes Lost about the constant, and it
Mm-hmm.
just seems totally wrong to me.
Well, and I think, we should not underestimate the fact that this is an episode with answers.
True.
Like, the question of what's happening kind of gets answered with some science.
True.
And
Yeah.
and it's a nice, complete story that's all wrapped up and encapsulated, and, you get that kind of,
Yeah.
you get that relief of a story told, beginning
Yeah.
and middle and end.
I guess I never thought about it this way, but you're mentioning that, the constant was just a theory of Faraday's.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me realize that in a way, like, because it works, I mean, it seems like it works, right? It seems like his theory was right.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Desmond called Penny allowed him to stop flipping, allowed him to merge consciousness and, like, not die. It sort of validates his theory. And I feel like in a way that sets us up to be more inclined to believe the variable theory.
Yeah. When in reality, like, Desmond was going to stop. He was going to stop flipping at some point. The question would be, like, would he be between places and get lost,
Mhm.
or go
Right.
be in the wrong one,
Right.
So it's almost like a focus thing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, be in the time period you want to be in, and then focus on something super strong.
Yeah.
And it's like a hiccup.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's a hiccup in space time. And if you hold on to something and believe it long enough, that hiccup passes you by, and then everything smooths out. It's like holding your breath.
Right.
You miss the hiccup, and then you're okay.
Yeah. 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 Or if you get like frightened by something or whatever, it sort of takes your attention,
Yeah, exactly.
focuses it elsewhere, and then
It's an anchor.
yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
We just solved this episode. It's all about the hiccup.
But yeah, you're totally right. That probably is a part of it. Most of the episodes are not so self-contained and don't have such seemingly definitive answers. And maybe maybe for some people that's a big plus.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. Well,
Yeah.
we will be back next time.
Yeah. What are we doing next time?
Next
The Other
time
Woman.
is everyone's favorite Juliet episode.
The Notorious episode. Yeah, so yeah, we'll get into some shit with that one.
Yeah.
That one's that one's a mess.
That was a mess. We love messes here.
I remember it as a hot mess, but I'll enjoy
Yeah.
it because there's a lot of issues in there.
Mm-hmm. Lots of issues. Oh, geez. Yep. Cool. Well, until then, thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.
Welcome to the bonus cast with Claude and Justin.
Hey everybody.
So, for the first time, I think ever, we're going to do a post-podcast bonus cast, which is I guess kind of a inverse green room, where we're going to do something after the main podcast. So we're going to jump back to February 28th, 2008. Is it 8?
Yes,
It's 8.
2008, yeah.
And back
Four.
to our instant reaction podcast on the original airing of The Constant. So, along with our original post podcast 42, where we dissected The Constant and did a regular podcast on it, we also did one of the rare instant reaction podcasts, or the ERPs, as the kids like to call it, which is about 16 minutes long. So, it is now, as we are recording, 2016. So 8 years ago, we're gonna see what we had to say about The Constant after having just recently podcasted in our commentary series about The Constant. Yeah. So we're narcissists, clearly.
Just might as well admit it.
We can't get enough of ourselves.
It's very meta, and I would say very appropriate for this whole thing of what Lost is about. That we're gonna look back at our own podcasts in the context of Lost in general.
Yeah, we've thought about doing this before, but no, I don't think we did it before, right?
No.
We've never done a commentary on
Never.
one of our podcasts, and we joke that after our commentary series ends, right now we're in the middle of season 4 of the commentary series. We joked about, we could just do a commentary series on all of our original podcasts.
Yeah.
Which would be insane. I mean,
Insane.
part of it is there would just be so much to talk about because we would be saying things, nonstop from the original podcast. It'd be hard to kind of discuss in real time. But
Right.
I think the 16-minute little podcast, this instant reaction thing, will be a fun way to try it. So when we edit this together, what you should be hearing is Claude and Justin from 2008. Will be in the left channel, so your left speaker, and then Claude and Justin from 2016. This feels like the constant.
It definitely does.
Weird.
Oh my god, that's so
really
weird.
weird.
That makes it super appropriate.
Oh man, this is the best this is the best episode we could have done this for.
Yeah.
So in the right channel you will hear us doing the in real time commentary in the right channel about the left channel 2008. So we're basically playing the role of Desmond in this episode, and we're just gonna do it in podcast form.
Yeah.
And have our past selves talk to our present, future selves. And maybe 8 years from now we'll do it again.
Yeah, why not?
And you know what we should do is we should say some things to the 2024 Claude and Justin.
Good idea.
And welcome them to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
They're listening to us, I'm sure. Which is now this got super weird. Now I feel like they're there.
Yeah. It's kind of scary,
this.
actually.
Yeah, they can hear this.
Turn on the Fox and Primer and are we gonna get out of there?
Hey, Claude and Justin from 2014, 2024. Sorry, if time travel exists,
oh God,
show up to my apartment, Justin's house, right now.
Oh man.
That's the scariest
thing. Please don't show up.
Oh,
I can't handle it. I just can't.
Man, that was really tense.
I'm not ready.
I looked around.
Yeah, I was listening.
Like
even if I got a package or something right now, it would be really scary.
Okay, so maybe you can't physically go. Maybe time travel doesn't work that way. Maybe it's too expensive. Maybe it's outlawed. But if it exists,
or maybe it's like Primer style, where when you do it, you create a new universe, and the original timeline doesn't have the time travel.
That's true. It could just be that. But if it's not that, if it's the fun one,
yeah.
Then maybe you can't physically come back. Maybe you're busy podcasting about all the original Lost
stuff.
episodes.
Oh my God.
How about a phone call? Can you get a phone call?
Oh shit.
You should know our numbers.
Yep. I'm looking at my phone.
Any phone calls?
I'm looking, and I really don't want it to move.
Well, you know what's weird though is 8 years from now, we'll remember this, and we will do it. We will call our numbers that we had back then.
But what if we have the same number?
Then then it won't be that fun.
You probably had your number for 8 years, right?
Yeah,
I haven't had mine for that long, but I might.
It won't be fun. But hopefully they'll use the time travel machine.
Okay.
Which every cell phone will probably have, right?
I mean, I could use someone else's phone.
So anyway, that's what we're gonna try to do. Let's see how that works.
I'll just say that I don't remember the last time I listened to this. It might have been, when this was originally edited. I don't even remember who edited this one. It could have been you or me. I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what we're going to say. I don't know why we decided to do an instant reaction exactly. I just don't know what to expect.
I assume it's because this episode was so crazy. We had to talk about it. We couldn't wait until we had time to do a regular podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, it took a while. You had to go through a whole thing. So this will be on TalkShoe and stuff from those days.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out.
That'll be cool to hear.
How to do this. I just wanted to see if I could put this in another channel put the old one in another channel so I could tell the difference.
Yeah. I guess I was just relying on the difference in sound, but yeah, you can probably pan it.
Yeah.
I think that's possible. Let's see. I got a spatializer. That's not it. Synchronization? No. Here we go. No, that's not it.
All right, seems to be working now. Okay, so you ready for the look back to the constant?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. If you're gonna sync up with this, because you can try this at home, then yeah, we're gonna go. We'll do a regular countdown. And if you're super computer savvy, you could probably set up what we've just done, so you can listen to our old podcast, Instant Reaction, with this current commentary, and you could be a Lost Slowdown super fan. We'll send you a T-shirt. And you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh.
Talk
Two.
Recorded?
Live.
God, I'm
Welcome
so happy
to
we
Lost
don't get to hear that
Slowdown,
anymore. So this is me introing.
reaction podcast.
This
I don't
is
know.
weird
We
to
need to give it a
listen
name.
to.
I don't know what
You're already not sure what to
Yeah.
call it.
Don't know what to
Naming
call
Naming
it.
things is always a problem.
Look at you.
Yep.
Naming things are
What
already
did you
trouble.
say?
That's what you
ERP.
said.
The
ERP.
IRP.
The ERP.
The LLD ERP. If that's not catchy, I don't know what's catchy. No, that's bad. I'm thinking initial reaction podcast, but that's pretty.
I feel like this is
bad.
going to be us listing
So,
ourselves.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
The right
we're gonna
channel
try
just
this
be
thing where we
silent.
I
just
hate to talk
sort
over
of
myself.
talk about in a very
And
general
yourself.
way our
Yeah.
initial reaction
Ourselves.
to the latest episode, The Constant,
The Constant.
before our real podcast. So this one's going to be short, ladies and gentlemen. No need to buckle your
You're such a
seatbelts
host.
and strap
It's
in
so
because
formal.
No,
I said
this
that
ride
earlier.
won't be bumpy and
Oh,
it
you
won't
did?
be bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
no,
So
you want to
that-
leave your seatbelt unbuckled for this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I remember that. Talking about
This is
the
a trip to
seatbelt
the
buckling.
store. This is not
Yeah.
a road
This
trip.
isn't a road trip across the country. This is
Yeah.
we're just going down the street to the post office. No worries.
Yeah.
We have something to mail.
Even though
I love this. We
They're
have
gonna
to
raise
give
the
like
price of
a
stamps again,
metaphor for what the
nobody
podcast
seems to
is
care.
before we
That's
start.
all right.
We can't just start.
I know, it's not that simple.
Uh-huh.
So
Like, we only have 15 minutes.
I
We've
loved
already
it.
burned, like,
Yep.
a minute and a half
turn.
on that.
Awesome. Yeah. You know, I honestly, my reaction was slightly mixed. I liked it.
Ooh.
I certainly
shit.
thought it was better than last week.
Exactly.
But
Mhm.
I personally like the first three better.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, I already don't
Yeah,
like
I
it?
know.
You already don't
Call
like
me
it.
crazy,
You
but-
just saw it.
Like the
Damn.
difference between this
Crazy.
and last week is huge. So it's
Yeah.
you know, it's not like it's just right above last week, but I really did like the first three better. I don't know. Something
Wow.
about it just
Look at me. I still don't believe it.
I know,
I'll
it's
tell
kind
you
of
what it
unbelievable.
it didn't
I didn't
pull
think
me
I
in
would
as
say
much.
this.
It didn't.
Desmond storyline?
Yeah.
Which is to say the whole episode?
Right. Which like I
Dude,
did like it. It's just I don't know, like the way people are gushing about it.
Yeah, see, you don't
I'm,
like
I
the
already
I'm not
think it's
quite
overrated.
as like taken by this
That's
whole
so
thing.
crazy.
Well, you
as
know what?
Many people are.
You know what I love about it, and I'm glad I didn't read this. You know, on Lost
See,
Wikipedia,
that's
they
why you
have
don't
like
read
the
the shit
little
people say.
episode titles
Mhm.
and like the little short description of them, and I every time I see that page, I try not to read it, and I'm glad I didn't because it tells you exactly what's happening.
Mhm.
Because I think that was there last time. Anyway, what I liked about this, and I think I definitely like The Constant more than Eggtown. I think
I
I
hope
liked
so.
it more than The Economist because I liked a lot of The
I'll buy
Economist,
that.
but it didn't
I think
have.
that's reasonable.
Yeah, some of Saeed's part, I was just like, oh, whatever. I guess I'm going in reverse order here. Confirmed Dead. That was pretty good. You know, the beginning of the end.
I said confirmed that is pretty good.
I know, that's
all
underselling
good,
it. I
but
think
like
that's,
what the Constant does for
I'm
me
not
is
sold by any of those.
and what the first three did, you know, sort of giving answers when usually Lost doesn't give answers. I thought the
Mhm.
Constant almost never back down when it was time to give an answer.
True.
That is
I
true.
just have to watch
You
it
talked
again,
about
but
that
you know those
about
times when
on the
it's like,
commentary.
oh, we shouldn't tell
Yeah.
them. No, tell us, and then
But, like,
some other
it's-
distraction comes
we
up and they
actually
never
get
get
answers.
told.
Mhm.
Well, in this episode, they get told.
Yeah.
And,
And maybe that is.
I really feel
yeah,
like I
an
posted this on the
appeal.
forum. I really feel like a lot of the goodness of this episode has to do with the fact that Dan is kind of driving things. You know, he's in a certain
Yeah.
way. You know, and I feel like having a scientist on the
Yeah.
show who's there to get answers means
Oh.
that we get answers too.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what we've always
Scientists
been
is there to get answers.
needing. A long time ago, we talked about that. You know, how are they ever going to discover whatever blah 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 thing about the island? No one there is equipped to know, nor do they really care.
Exactly.
And so this character really does that job, and also just like his personality, he's
Yeah.
he's something. I don't know, his strange
He's great.
way of expressing himself, and yeah, I don't know. It's nice.
Jeremy Davies, man, best new Lost actor
Yeah, we're already
ever, I
sold on
think.
that.
Yeah.
Best addition to the show since they've added people to the show almost.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Desmond's story, you know, I thought the whole, you know, I'm tired of the whole pity thing. But I think for me, this, I would give this episode, you
I think
know, a
that's-
4 out of 5 or something, or an 8, you know, 10 or something, which is
Okay,
the same.
yeah, so you're not
But,
over the top.
You want to talk about ratios? Yes, that is the same.
Yeah.
I think for me, what takes it down a couple notches, it's just sort of the penny thing. It's sort of, you know, like
I feel like I said that in the last podcast.
Yeah, I
something
think you
with Desmond sort of part of it I didn't really love, but all the stuff with Dan I loved, and in general, like what's going on I thought was great. I mean, we're getting a huge piece of the puzzle in terms of what's going on with the island. I mean, this ties together, you know, so many things, I think, and explains
this is very
a
optimistic.
lot. You know, I think I almost want to close the book on the sickness now. Like I feel like,
Oh my
like
God.
Russo's backstory about
Wow.
killing her
I
team.
love it.
I feel
love
like
it.
now we have a real
Close the book
reason
on
why
the
she could have
sickness.
done that and thought they were sick. Now we have a real reason why Dharma was inoculating people, because I think the vaccines were like anti-radiation vaccines. Like now we have something
Interesting.
we can plug into these holes. And like and it's a lot of holes we can plug with this episode, and that's why I love it, because I'm like, wow, they're really giving us stuff. This, you know, every episode I'm like, wow, this really is the beginning of the end. You know, like they really are wrapping things up.
Yeah.
You know, and in that first scene when they're in the helicopter ride, you know, I would have never thought we would have, you know, seen so much of their helicopter ride. You know, and it makes sense now that I see what kind of story they're telling. But I thought, oh, well, we'll see them land or something, or, you know. Well, and this was especially before I knew that there was going to be some sort of problem with them getting there. But the whole thing, and then the matter of fact, you know, basically last episode, I guess, you know, Jack and them were like, well, they've been gone a long time, we haven't heard from them. And the very next episode, we get the reason why, pretty much.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so that's great.
Oh, right.
It is.
And he
change of
just
pace.
tells them, you know, and it's great. And now we get a better sense of what's going on, and I guess we should talk about, we should revisit our time theories here, because,
Totally.
you know, now we know
Oh, God.
that the time on the island,
That shit
you
is
know,
so
you do
confusing.
experience it longer than the real world time, which,
Well, I don't know about that.
Way
I don't know
over.
about that. There are some problems.
We got 2 minutes before our short podcast is up.
There are some problems, and we got to get into them probably more seriously. But I think I'm concerned. Just for example, if time's moving slower on the island, then it should have seemed like they got there really fast, not really slowly, and so that's troubling me.
Well, but if you're on the island, it's weird.
Here we
If you're
go.
on the island and it's like,
Here
wow,
comes.
it's taken them a day and we haven't heard from them yet. But in the real world time, you know, it took them, what did he say, 20 minutes
20
or something like that? See, that's what I was trying to explain before, and I guess I'm not doing a good job because I think it is just sort of, it doesn't really make sense. But it's like your perception of time,
You're saying
and maybe
we
that's
still
what
can't
it is.
quite
Maybe
get
it's
it.
that's
No.
the difference is
During
their
the
perception
commentary, we
of
were
time is what's
trying.
moving slow,
Yeah.
It's
and not
surprisingly
actually time
hard.
is moving slow.
And the other thing is, there was a calendar on the boat. It's the right date. It doesn't
Yeah,
appear that
that's a good
this
point.
boat is in the future, you know. So
Mhm.
that whole theory got sort of killed when they saw the calendar.
Well, don't forget that he did go. I think you asked when we were talking about this whole thing that if you left the bubble, that whole thing about when you leave the bubble, does it send you back when you left, kind of thing,
Mhm.
or we kind of talked
that's
about
the
that,
fix.
and I would say that's how I would explain that it's the same, that it's the right time that they get back to, is because they went on pretty much the right vector,
Mhm.
Or I guess maybe they did
that's
go
how
on the
the
right
bearing
vector, and
works.
Desmond's problem was
Mhm.
just because he,
Man,
had the radiation from the years of being next to the electromagnetism and being in the failsafe implosion. So
Right.
I think that sort of supercharged him. But we got 10
Yeah, we
seconds.
talked about that too.
Yeah, we did.
Wow. I don't know what to do with 10 seconds.
I don't either. Maybe we should
the
extend it or
the
something.
penny
Going.
centricity of it all is
Yeah.
is okay with me. I think
I
that
guess we were
part of the
supposed to end
story
at 10 minutes.
worked better than it
Mhm.
should. For some reason,
Yeah.
that kind of story I feel like should be awful, but
They made it work.
they pull it off somehow. Yeah, it doesn't feel as corny as it would, I think, with maybe other people in the same kind of story.
Mhm. I was so surprised when Dan was like, you need to go find me. Like, luckily he's smart enough to be at Cambridge during that time,
Yeah.
What a coincidence he wasn't, like, in America somewhere.
That's more coincidence than we think.
But, like, I was like,
He's
holy
British,
shit,
basically.
like, what? Lost is going to do, like, this time travel thing? Or, like,
Yeah.
he's going to relay messages and do things, because he can time travel, basically, mentally,
I think that's
guess.
one of the coolest things about the episode.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty
Like, by
crazy
the
to
end,
me. He's like, you need to
Desmond's
find me and I'll help
actually,
you or
actively using
something.
it.
And I'm a little, I don't love the fact that, coincidentally Dan was working on this time experiment. I mean, obviously it makes sense since he's there in the future, and that's probably why he's
Maybe
there.
it's not a coincidence.
But, like, I just thought that was a little too convenient that right when Desmond shows up, here's this experiment ready to go.
That's 100% relevant to the story.
Yeah, and the first time he does it on the mouse actually goes to the future. Because if the mouse goes to the past,
that didn't bother me
he
this
wouldn't have been
time.
able to prove what he proved then.
Yeah.
Because the mouse wouldn't have been able to run the course, and it would have just been like, okay, whatever, I don't know what happened. But the fact that it could have went to the future, but not enough in the future to where it learned the thing. So it's like, they got lucky on that first try that it went far enough in the future where it learned the thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So I thought that was a little contrived, but it
was,
makes sense
and
for what's
I
going
couldn't help but be reminded of the series finale of Star Trek: The Next Generation that had a similar construction. I guess the only way they could make it closer is if they had Desmond go into the future also.
Yeah.
But him sort of mid-sentence skipping in time. That's exactly. And then you got to do this when you go back. That kind of thing. Like that's exactly what the series finale was like. And I don't know. I didn't realize. I was like, I know I've seen this before. And then it occurred to me, like, yeah, that was when they did that. And I liked it then, and I like it here too. But still, it's weird.
And the whole thing with Minkowski, that was cool. Like it was weird. It's like, who would have thought that's what was going on?
Not me.
And I feel like I should have guessed that whatever was going on with Minkowski should have been related to the island, but I just was like, I just have no idea what's going on.
I thought he was a traitor, and they had I thought he might have been Ben's man. I thought there was all kinds of shit going on, and it was that was not what I didn't think we'd meet him. The other thing is, like, I I felt like because Desmond lost his memory and had this mission to do, you know, I felt like we got less out of the boat than I wanted. I wanted
there'll
I
be more
wanted
boat.
more. I know they gave us stuff, but I wanted more out of the boat.
Oh, but we'll get more. We'll get
Yeah.
more. I mean, and the
Totally.
whole thing about, you know, this, like, the friend on the boat and all that stuff. You know, I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like we're, you know, I didn't watch the Fine 815 thing, but I feel like, you know, the fact that there's this, like, hidden person on the boat doing stuff, I feel like that's very, like, interactive, like, you know, mystery or something. You know, I feel like, ooh, who is this person? And, like, that it's like they're helping us, you know, solve this mystery, you know, on this thing. And I feel like for some reason that puts us in more in the show now that
Us as in the
I don't
audience.
know, now
oh,
that
okay.
there's this person helping Saeed and Desmond and them, like,
That's
anonymously.
interesting.
It feels very weird. And, you know, it could be Michael, it could be Walt, it could be anybody
Michael.
else,
Yeah.
I guess.
It reminded me of Alex pretty much pulled that move with Jack
Mhm.
in the Hydra. It can't be Alex, but
No, 20 seconds.
that's what it reminded me of. What 20
20
seconds? Man,
seconds.
see, you know,
Are
I'm
you
just
trying to
not a
go
pressure
15?
guy. Like, if I'm taking a test and it's like 20 seconds left, I'm getting nothing done.
And now you're wasting it. Okay, let's cut it off at 16
Yeah, exactly.
minutes. I think it should be a number for no rational reason.
Okay.
So
Fair enough. Well,
last remarks.
more on this later, of course.
Of course.
talk about this
but
later.
this is the thing. Like, I don't know how people do an hour podcast because we've done 15 minutes and haven't said anything.
I know. Nothing has happened yet. What? How can you be done? I remember Big O used to do those, like, 8-minute podcasts.
Yeah, you don't have
yeah.
anything to say.
What is he doing? Yeah, you can't get anything done. It's completely...
All right, 30 seconds.
Oh, Jesus, not again.
All right, guys. So basically,
Pressure.
you know, our real podcast will come this weekend. Stay tuned to that. This was just a reaction. Justin, out of 10, how do you rate this episode?
I would give this episode a 7.5 out of 10.
7.5 out of 10. Okay.
Yeah.
And I give it an 8.
That's pretty
All right.
I think obviously we really disagree, and we'll never come to any consensus.
There's just no common ground here.
No. That half of a point there it's unreachable. We've gone over 16 minutes. Thank you and namaste.
Namaste. Good luck. See you later.
Nice.
Wow.
That's
Man, that felt so fast.
yeah, that was really, really quick.
I can't
That's a
believe
quick. It was a breeze. That's why we called it breezy in
That's
the
what it
original
was.
post. It was breezy.
We
It was
couldn't
a
go
breezy
deep.
16 minutes.
It was just boom, over.
I mean, it was surfacey and general reactions, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very cool to hear.
It was interesting to hear what we were saying at the time. And how, like, surprisingly similar it is.
Yeah.
But we're still
and it was cool to get to see how he felt about the show at this point.
Yeah.
And, like, what we were already over. Like, we're already over some of these things.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, I could probably go for an 8 now. I think the 7.5 was like my little rebellion against the overhyping,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But that's not really the episode's fault. Like, it's a pretty good episode. It's just like, yeah, I think I was even then I was bothered by it. And and actually it's worse now, you know, because back then it was just a fan saying, "Oh, this is a great episode." You know, now it's like, you know,
The world.
TV writers, you get these articles, they got nothing to do with Lost, and they'll talk about how great the content is. So it's like it's blown up since then. So it's like it's even worse now, but it was already a thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think I was on the right track about that. Or at least the same track I'm on, if it's right or not. The Desmond and Penny thing, I still agree with that. Like, I think in terms of like somehow like dialing down the cheese in the romance angle, like they do a pretty good job with that. But I think that's actually worse for me now than it was then because I'm kind of fed up with Desmond and his Penny thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's just like that whole thing. I didn't at the time. I didn't feel annoyance with him that I'm kind of getting now from the commentaries.
Yeah.
So like that stuff I think works for me even less now than it did back then.
You know, the annoyance wasn't too bad for me this time around in the constant, because it was set up for him to be selfish. It was about him and everything in this whole episode.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he wasn't screwing over other people really. So
True.
you know,
I'm talking about it more in general as a plot line, not in the constant. You're right, it's fine. But I just in terms of that storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Catch-22 was the one. Catch-22 was like the worst.
Yep.
You know, but I do feel like to a certain extent Charlie's death and the whole helicopter thing are sort of, you know, fallout from that. In the constant it's like it should be about him because it is. I mean, he's the one skipping through time, so how can he not make it about himself? Like, he's gonna die if he doesn't do something, you know.
Yeah.
And he has to contact Penny, and you know, I like that we're already Faraday fans. He's been in like 4 episodes maybe, like, and we're already on board. I didn't remember how long that took. So that's interesting to hear. I do think that is actually another thing that probably makes people like this episode. Because I think Faraday was pretty popular too, and really it's like there's a Faraday-Desmond connection.
Yeah.
You know? And so you know, the two of them are these very popular characters, and then they come together, and it's like, you know, it's like Batman versus Superman or something. It's like, you know, everybody's happy.
Unlike Batman versus Superman, the movie where no one was happy.
Yeah, as I said that, it kind of sounded ridiculous, but you know, that's how it should be.
That's how it should be.
You know, at least it's the real Faraday and the real Desmond, and not like, you know, whatever happened with the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Did you see it?
I saw it.
What? Okay, that's enough. That sounds like a review.
It was, yeah, exactly. I saw it.
I saw it.
Say it with attitude, and now you know. All right. Well, that was fun. Listening to the old podcast. Those that Claude and Justin, they're pretty entertaining chaps. Yeah.
Very enjoyable.
I liked, 90-second intro. That was great. Like, you just talked about nothing for 90 seconds.
And I feel like the last 90 seconds were like that too. We were talking about how we're going to end it for
time. Yeah, the show gets weird and meta. How are we going to end this?
Yeah.
Speaking of, how are we going to end this?
Oh, shit.
Well, I hope future Claude and Justin are listening, and I just want to say hello.
That's another thing I think I want to throw in before we punch out here. This idea of like the answers, you know. I feel like we were, as I said during the podcast, like we were very optimistic. I mean, it's true that, you know, within the episode, it has answers that are relevant to the episode and I guess relevant to season 4 in general. But I think maybe we were overly optimistic about how much scope that had in terms of the show in general, you know? Because like this phenomenon is kind of it's kind of a detail in the grand scheme of things. You know, like the barrier and all that. That's just like an aspect of the island, you know, and it doesn't really get at the central mystery. Yeah. You know, and I think at the time I thought that it did. I thought that we were, you know, that this was leading to that. And I guess it connects, but it's like, I don't know. It's interesting to hear this perspective that, like, we're learning all these answers, and, like, it's sort of true, but...
Yeah, but I think it's, like, even if you find out what the island is, you won't necessarily know what the show is. You know, like, what... And that's a weird thing. You know, that's what we've been, like, uncovering in this commentary series is trying to find out what the island is really an exercise in trying to find out what the show is. Yeah. And and you see how those two things are connected and how, like, you can't just try to use the details of what is in the show to analyze, what is the show. You know what I mean?
Right.
You kind of have to like look at all these different aspects of it to like see the patterns that that are displayed, when you look at it through a certain perspective. So yeah, we were really thinking that if we knew all the physical properties of the island, then great, we solved the show.
Yeah.
Like, hey, the show's about this place.
Yeah.
This place has these properties, and this is where it came from, and this is where it's going, and yay, the end.
Right.
But yeah, that's a completely different thing of like, what is Lost the show? What is it trying to do? And how does it do it? And that's been the fun part is seeing those tools of storytelling and everything.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I guess just as like one detail about the island is never gonna explain it. One episode or one plot line is never gonna tell you what the whole show's about.
Yeah.
It can only be an aspect. I mean, certainly, like, the numbers plot line gets close, but, I think even that doesn't necessarily catch every aspect of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, yeah. It's one of those things. I mean, it's a piece of the puzzle, sure, but it is, I did think it was going to be a bigger thing, the time dilation and all that. I remember thinking, because they're gonna leave the island at the end of the semester. Oh my god. Okay. Wow, I'm wrapped up in that at the end of the season, and I remember thinking like, what is it going to be some kind of crazy time thing? The time will have passed. More, they'll show up and it'll be the future or some crazy thing.
Yeah, I remember us talking a lot about that. And maybe like that somehow, that, what if they showed up right when they left?
Right.
What if they showed up in the past right when they left and it seemed like they never left?
Yeah. And so like with the donkey wheel, Ben and Locke and stuff, they do like a little bit of time traveling. That does kind of make that phenomenon come true. But the Oceanic Six, I think they show up off the island right when they're supposed to. Like the same time has passed, and as they're off the island for 3 years, how much time passed on the island? 3 years, exactly the same. So it's sort of like, is it really a thing, or is it random, or is it even what you said that like it remembers when you left? Which is the super crazy version.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, it knows where to drop you off because it knows when you left.
It's like an Uber.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yikes.
The Time Bearer was the original Uber. Everybody knows that.
It's just well known.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think, unfortunately, this bodes well for us doing a commentary series on all of our original podcasts, because that was fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah. And to future Claude and Justin, we will be seeing you soon.
Here's to future nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. Future nostalgia. That's great. All right. Well, if you've listened to this entire podcast, you listened to our green room before the Constant podcast.
Oh, right. There's another green room.
Yeah, then you listen to our commentary on the Constant.
Man, this is bonus. This is full of bonus features.
Then you listen to this current bonus podcast where we talked about the Instant Reaction podcast from 2008.
Yeah.
So you've listened to a lot of Claude and Justin from a lot of time periods.
Yeah.
And I think that's the top-notch entertainment you can only get at the Lost Lowdown.
Absolutely.
So till next time, thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.